Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San, chapters 761 through 780 of the previous episode. After a brutal doubles final, Mei Gongzi secures the championship, though at a steep personal cost to Tang San, who channels his remaining energy and the Azura Sword's intent to ensure victory. The pair's unprecedented success and Mei Gongzi's emerging, transcendent spatial powers alarm the ancestral court's emperors. Following their triumph, Tang San orchestrates a daring plan. He helps Mei Gongzi pass her final ancestral court evaluation by revealing their connection to the Crystal Demon Emperor, who intervenes to support her succession to the Lord of Kali City before she passes away. Tang San then successfully undergoes a dangerous reality-warping tribulation within the Hell Garden, absorbing its fortune to forge a transcendent bloodline and a divine body. Now possessing power that rivals emperors, he prepares to lead humanity toward a future where they can finally stand independent of the demon and nymph clans. If you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Thank you. Now let's get back to the story of Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San audio series. Chapter 781. Speaking of that, some humans have already migrated overseas. I plan to select a few talented individuals and start teaching them, unlocking their innate potential. Humans need their own cultivation path. Then we'll continue the overseas migration. We must establish human settlements far from the demon continent, out of the ancestral court's sight. I hope you can help manage these humans overseas. You were once a city lord, and you built the largest merchant association around. When it comes to management, no one compares to you. The future prosperity of humanity needs your contribution. Shao He nodded and smiled bitterly, saying, "You gave me another life, so that life is yours. Whatever you say goes. I'm already content just being alive. Also, I have to be honest, now that I'm in a human body, I'm curious to see what human potential can really achieve. Moving overseas is definitely a choice. When the time comes, take me there. I'll study the state of humanity first, then we can talk about how to manage it." Tang San didn't need to do much persuasion. The old peacock Great Demon King had already found his place. Tang San trusted him completely. Wang Qing's one and only attachment was to his wife, so how could Tang San not trust him? Moreover, Tang San had promised him that no matter how powerful humans became, Kali City would always belong to the Peacock Demon Clan. After Mei Gongzi, the successor would certainly come from the Peacock Demon Clan, just as Wang Qing had hoped. And now he would get to witness it all himself. The body known as Shao He was around 30 years old. Maybe he was actually a little younger, although looking somewhat older due to the hardships of life. But after Tang San's transformative cleansing, the new Shao He looked completely different. With this fresh body and his cultivation started anew, living another 100 years or two would be no problem. He would witness many things in that time. Since the Peacock Great Demon King would never be able to leave this plane in the future, Tang San did not and could not make him any promises regarding that. However, involving him was undoubtedly a great advantage for humanity's future development. Next, the most essential task for Tang San was figuring out how to confront the ancestral court, ensuring that both he and Mei Gongzi could become emperors. This would inevitably lead to conflicts with the emperors of the ancestral court. He needed a comprehensive strategy and thorough preparations. He knew it more clearly than everyone else. Even the most capable person had limits. While scheming against the ancestral court, he didn't have enough time to manage humanity. Leaving this to the former Peacock Great Demon King was the perfect solution. With Shao He managing things behind the scenes, Tang San could focus more on dealing with the powerhouses of the ancestral court. After the conversation, Tang San had Shao He continue his meditation. Having just been revived, his spirit and body needed time to harmonize. Tang San used the mysterious heaven technique to assist, injecting a vast amount of life energy into him. Shao He's body would continue to be tempered thanks to this life force. Tang San also taught him the fundamental cultivation methods of the body sect. The body sect's cultivation techniques obviously focused on tempering the body. For this body to grow to higher levels in the future, it needed a higher capacity to bear power, especially in terms of divine consciousness. As the seals on Shao He's divine consciousness were gradually lifted, he could recover his Great Demon King cultivation in the future. Shao He had an excellent mindset. He wasn't discouraged by the loss of his 11th order power. Instead, he found this human body fascinating and studied the body-sex cultivation methods from Tang San with great focus. Since this was a new beginning, he embraced it with a fresh attitude. This was how Shao he viewed it. The White Tiger Demon Emperor visited again during this time, bringing some valuable cultivation resources. Among the emperors, his wealth was undoubtedly among the top. He lacked no cultivation resources, and with White Tiger City as his backing, he had access to anything he wanted. The next day, in the early morning, just as Tang San finished his purple demon eyes training, he sensed the aura of the White Tiger Demon Emperor once again. At that moment, both Mei Gongzi and Shao He were still deep in meditation. "Your Majesty, is it that urgent?" Tang San said, a bit helpless. The White Tiger Demon Emperor glanced at him, his lips curling slightly. "Let me tell you one thing in case you haven't noticed yet. The one type of person I hate the most is the wannabe smart type. That's why I never got along well with the old fox. I always have the urge to punch him in the face." As he spoke, he cracked his knuckles, causing a series of popping sounds that left Tang San speechless. "Was it a mistake for me to agree to spar with you yesterday?" Tang San said with a wry smile. The White Tiger Demon Emperor displayed an unusually warm smile. "No worries, young one. If you regret it now, it's already too late." Tang San sighed. "But I haven't had breakfast yet. And that's a problem? If anything, you should be happy. If you haven't eaten anything, there's nothing to vomit when I beat you up. You can just eat after the fight. Do you even have a heart? Are you drunk already at this hour? I'm a tiger demon, why would I need a heart? Stop wasting time, let's go." "Wait, let me wake little Mei up first. She said she wanted to watch us spar." Tang San wondered if he might actually get beaten to death by this towering White Tiger Demon Emperor if he didn't bring Mei Gongzi along. The White Tiger Demon Emperor scoffed. "Hiding behind a woman? I'm surprised you can bring yourself to do that." Tang San retorted. "A 12th order bullying a 10th order? I'm surprised you can bring yourself to do that." As he spoke, Tang San had already approached Mei Gongzi. He didn't need to do anything. His natural aura naturally brought her out of her meditation. "What's going on?" she asked, her eyes still a bit dazed as she looked at Tang San. He smiled wryly and said, "It's early in the morning, and a certain tiger demon couldn't wait any longer. We're going to spar." Mei Gongzi blinked in surprise, looking at the sky outside and then at the White Tiger Demon Emperor. "This early?" The White Tiger Demon Emperor smiled slightly and said, "It's better to start early. The best part of the day is the morning. Early is always better than late. Come with me." Mei Gongzi looked at Tang San, concern clearly visible in her eyes. Tang San took her hand and said, "It's okay. Let's give it a try. Receiving direct guidance from His Majesty will be incredibly helpful for us. You can also spar with His Majesty a bit later." Over the past few days, Mei Gongzi had received a lot of guidance from the White Tiger Demon Emperor and had made great progress in her White Tiger transformation. She was no longer an ordinary Great Demon King. Although she had only recently entered this realm, she had both the Peacock Demon and the White Tiger bloodline, two first-tier bloodlines, and had gradually begun to merge the two. Her understanding of space was truly profound, and even before becoming a Great Demon King, she had been able to defeat a senior Great Demon King from the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan. Now she was much stronger than the average Great Demon King, but it was precisely because of this that she understood how terrifying emperors were. The feeling of being completely overwhelmed when the White Tiger Demon Emperor guided her was etched deeply into her memory. She knew very well that even though she had become a Great Demon King, not even 10 of her would hold out for a single minute against the White Tiger Demon Emperor. So when she heard that Tang San was going to spar with the White Tiger Demon Emperor, she was quite worried. She didn't fully understand how powerful Tang San had become, but no matter what, he was still at the 10th order, far below both her and the White Tiger Demon Emperor in cultivation. "How about we both go at him together?" Mei Gongzi whispered to Tang San. She felt that if she just stood by and watched, and the White Tiger Demon Emperor fought too ruthlessly, she wouldn't be able to stop him in time. But if she was in the fight, the White Tiger Demon Emperor would naturally hold back, making it safer for Tang San. The White Tiger Demon Emperor sighed and shook his head in despondence. How quickly a woman sides with her man against her family. Fine, both of you can come at me together. Tang San chuckled. Then let's do it together. We're the best team, the Ancestral Court Elite Competition's champions. The White Tiger Demon Emperor gave a faint smile. That's good for you, I suppose. Soon you'll understand what real power is. In the face of an elephant, there's hardly any difference between one ant and two ants. Follow me. The White Tiger Demon Emperor led Tang San and Mei Gongzi out of the study and up the stairs, ascending to the higher levels of White Tiger Palace. Tang San took the opportunity to observe the palace more closely. The floor and walls of the White Tiger Palace were made of smooth, polished black stone inlaid with white stone. That was all plain black and white stone, but thanks to the intricate white patterns, every part of it gave off a sense of luxury and nobility. The white stone emitted a soft glow, radiating pure energy. It was clear that this seemingly decorative material was in fact extremely valuable. They climbed the stairs all the way to the top floor, where the White Tiger Demon Emperor led them to a pair of large double doors. In contrast with the walls, these doors were made of a white material and were adorned with symmetrical black patterns. They looked rather strange, yet at the same time beautiful. This is the highest level of my White Tiger Palace. Nobody will bother us here. In fact, I don't even have servants here. Most of the time, I'm the only one in this palace. Such is the sorrow of having no kin, the White Tiger Demon Emperor said calmly. Indeed, since they had entered the palace, neither Tang San nor Mei Gongzi had seen anyone else. It seemed that in this grand palace, the White Tiger Demon Emperor was completely alone. So he had been living in solitude all this time? Tang San was once more made aware of why he had been able to persuade the White Tiger Demon Emperor so easily. Indeed, it wasn't the promise of immortality per se that convinced him. It was the promise of being able to spend those long years together with family. The White Tiger Demon Emperor stepped forward and pushed open the double doors. Instantly, a chilling aura surged out from inside, making them shiver involuntarily. The world inside was pure white. There was no trace of color anywhere within. And when the White Tiger Demon Emperor stepped inside, Tang San and Mei Gongzi realized they could no longer sense his presence. Tang San immediately understood. Behind these doors was a separate dimension. This was the gateway to a microplane. As it turned out, just like the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor had his Hell Garden, the White Tiger Demon Emperor also had his own secret realm. Come in. The voice of the White Tiger Demon Emperor called out. Tang San took Mei Gongzi's hand and stepped through the door. The moment they crossed the threshold, they felt their entire bodies tense, as if some force was pulling them, yanking them deeper inside. An eerie aura surrounded them, and in the next moment, a cold killing intent seemed to permeate the entire world. It was a world of white. There was no snow, yet everything around them was white. The ground, the mountains, even the plants were all white. So much white made the entire world feel incredibly eerie. The White Tiger Demon Emperor stood not far ahead, smiling calmly. This is my world. I call it the White Realm. I spend much of my time here, nurturing my killing intent. I discovered this small plane by accident. As you can see, it looks pretty eerie, but you get over it with time. There are two great things about this plane. It's extremely stable, and whatever energy is here is extremely pure. In my case, killing intent is my foundation, so I constantly purify it here. When my killing intent reaches its peak, I purify it further in this realm, and each time it grows stronger. It was through the sublimation of my killing intent that I eventually became an emperor. In any case, while this is my plane, it doesn't boost my strength any more than it boosts everyone else's. Here the fight is fair. Tang San silently sensed the aura of the White Realm. Sure enough, when he released his own energy, a strange force within the plane absorbed it, filtered it, and then returned it to him. His energy had undergone a transformation, just as the White Tiger Demon Emperor had described, purified. What a great place. If one trained here consistently, they could purify their bloodline power, making it even more intense. This was unquestionably one of the White Tiger Demon Emperor's greatest secrets, and now he was sharing it with Tang San and Mei Gongzi just like that. The White Tiger Demon Emperor looked at Tang San and said, "When you're ready, come at me. Don't disappoint me. Let me see the confidence you have in taking me out of this world in the future. Here you can unleash your full power without worry. Even an emperor can't break this White Realm." All right, Tang San nodded. He let go of Mei Gongzi's hand and smiled at her. I'll handle this on my own. I have a good feeling about this place and I want to see where my limits are right now. You just back me up. Seeing the brightness in his eyes, Mei Gongzi said nothing more. She simply nodded gently, gave him an encouraging look and stepped back. The White Tiger Demon Emperor smirked. I thought you were really going to hide behind my granddaughter. You've got some guts after all. Tang San smirked right back at him. Taunting won't work on me, Your Majesty. I'm ready to begin. As he spoke, Tang San took a small step forward. And during that small step, a golden halo lit up behind him. At the center of the halo, the blue-silver emperor appeared, enveloped in a mist of milky white chaos energy. Instantly, black and white energies intertwined within the halo, causing a massive shift in Tang San's aura. Perhaps affected by the chaos energy, the White Realm trembled slightly. The White Tiger Demon Emperor was startled and instinctively used his divine consciousness to stabilize the White Realm, applying a bit of suppression. At that very moment, Tang San moved. In an instant, silver light flickered, and Tang San appeared right in front of the White Tiger Demon Emperor. Golden armor swiftly covered his entire body, and 5 giant golden claws extended from each hand, slashing fiercely toward the White Tiger Demon Emperor. Golden armor transformation. The intense aura of the golden armor transformation, combined with the yin-yang power of the blue-silver emperor, pushed Tang San's strength, sharpness, and suppressive power to the absolute limit. Light exploded from the White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes, and instead of blocking the attack, he opened his mouth and let out a fierce roar. A terrifying wave of divine consciousness surged forth like a storm, crashing toward Tang San's body. But at that exact moment, Tang San's seemingly all-out attack suddenly stopped, and he vanished again. He reappeared behind the White Tiger Demon Emperor, and his eyes still shining brightly, showing that he had not been affected by the tiger roar. At the same time, the space-time lighthouse emerged from Tang San's dantian, floating up to his chest. A milky white glow descended from it, enveloping the White Tiger Demon Emperor and slowing his movements considerably. Tang San's claws descended fiercely, aiming directly at the White Tiger Demon Emperor's back. However, at that moment, Tang San seemed to sense something and abruptly restrained his power. The white light from the space-time lighthouse turned silver, and in the next instant, he vanished into the void once more. Just as he vanished, 2 dazzling white lights like massive blades swept through the spot where he had just stood. Wherever they passed, the air exploded and violent, distorted waves rippled through the space within the White Realm. The terrifying killing intent even caused Mei Gongzi to stiffen, even though she was quite a distance away. Those were enormous wings. The moment they extended, the sharp aura they brought seemed as if it could tear the entire world apart. Had Tang San not moved quickly, he would have been struck head-on by the force of those wings. By now, he had appeared on the other side, just in time to see the White Tiger Demon Emperor smile in a very unsettling manner. At the same time, he saw a ball of light forming at the White Tiger Demon Emperor's chest. Well, technically speaking, it was not actually a ball of light but one of darkness, it just had a white halo around it. In fact, it resembled a miniature black hole. As this orb appeared, the space around the White Tiger Demon Emperor distorted violently, making him look even more unsettling. Tang San's heart tightened. His dragon rock transformation wings shot out, and with a mighty flap, he propelled himself backward at high speed, choosing not to teleport this time. But in that instant, the entire world seemed filled with killing intent. It was so dense that it felt almost tangible, and in Tang San's perception, it was as if the entire space had turned into the White Tiger Demon Emperor. Behind him was the black orb, now magnified countless times, filling the backdrop. Such powerful energy fluctuations. Tang San drew in a sharp breath. So this is the full might of an emperor, truly worthy of the title. The White Tiger Demon Emperor wasn't holding back. The spatial distortions had sealed off all of Tang San's control over time and space through the space-time lighthouse, preventing any outward projection. The massive killing intent had completely locked onto him, making it feel as if the entire world was about to engulf him. Tang San was like an insect caught in a spider's web, suspended in midair and unable to move. If that's all you've got, then you've truly disappointed me. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's voice rang out. When Tang San used the space-time lighthouse to steal a shred of his divine consciousness, even his powerful spirit had been momentarily disrupted. But that was due to the suddenness of the attack, and also because he was inside the White Tiger Palace, where unleashing his power meant allowing his aura to leak out, which would have inevitably led to unwelcome questions. That hesitation had allowed Tang San to gain a slight advantage. But here in the White Realm, he could use his full strength without restraint. And he was about to show his granddaughter and her little boyfriend what the heaven-crossing, earth-piercing title meant. Tang San actually had to exert serious effort as he turned to face the black orb that seemed to be expanding before his eyes, yet his gaze remained unnaturally calm. In the next instant, a strange halo of light burst forth from his body, enveloping the battlefield instantly. The White Tiger Demon Emperor was momentarily stunned, and then he felt a strange sensation. His boundless and vigorous blood essence suddenly fluctuated, and his mind became briefly dazed. The black orb that had completely enveloped Tang San wavered, its stability disrupted for an instant. In that brief moment, Tang San's wings flapped violently. His dragon rock transformation was pushed to the extreme, and he retreated like lightning, forcibly breaking free from the White Tiger Demon Emperor's suppression. This is the Celestial Fox's extreme fortune domain. 1. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's voice was full of astonishment. Although he knew Tang San possessed various bloodline abilities, he never expected him to have the extreme fortune domain, a power even the Crystal Demon Emperor had been unable to replicate. It was truly unbelievable. The extreme fortune domain was a divine ability of the Celestial Fox clan, and not even all Celestial Foxes who reached the god level could use it. In fact, only a select few among the clan's strongest members were able to. Yet Tang San, a human without any Celestial Fox blood, actually had this power. It was as if a powerful Celestial Fox was aiding him from behind the scenes, something any demon or nymph would long for even in their dreams. As Tang San retreated, golden light burst from his forehead, and his divine consciousness surged, instantly increasing in power. Not only had he broken free from the White Tiger Demon Emperor's energy restraints, but he had also escaped the spiritual lock-on. Tang San knew that if he didn't show some real strength today, he would end up completely thrashed by his opponent. He reached into the void. A beam of golden light shot from his brow, and the golden image of the sea god's trident materialized. A massive golden figure rose up behind Tang San, transforming into a brilliant golden phantom of the sea god. In an instant, Tang San's aura skyrocketed. The invisible pressure made the White Tiger Demon Emperor feel as though he were facing an indomitable force, causing his own aura to momentarily falter. The golden trident thrust forward, releasing hundreds of beams of golden light that converged into a single focused stream, all aimed directly at the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The technique was Fury of the Masses too, and it was one of Tang San's former divine techniques. Though he had not yet regained his God King cultivation, he was now a god once again, and while the power was not quite there yet, using these techniques was well within the realm of possibility. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes gleamed, and two blades of white light suddenly crossed in midair, meeting the oncoming fury of the masses. A deafening explosion echoed through the sky as gold and white clashed. Amid the aftermath, several beams of golden light inexplicably burst through the white glow and shot toward the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor frowned slightly. This was the effect of the extreme fortune domain. The extreme part actually referred to both extremes. Fortune and misfortune constantly intertwined, affecting both combatants and continuously influencing the battlefield. Opening his mouth, he simply swallowed the golden beams. His wings flapped violently, and his overwhelming killing intent erupted again, engulfing the battlefield. The gap in cultivation between the two was immense, so Tang San's extreme fortune domain had little effect on the White Tiger Demon Emperor. At the same time, his vast combat experience made him well aware of Tang San's biggest reliance. Thus, he used his 7 kills domain to block the influence of time and space, minimizing the power of the space-time lighthouse. Intense white light suddenly burst from the White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes. With the support of his 7 kills domain, he forcefully broke free from the pressure of the sea god's aura and launched another attack instantly. The terrifying white light intertwined in the air, forming razor-sharp blades filled with unparalleled killing intent that shot straight toward Tang San. Tang San landed on the ground and took a firm stance. The golden trident spun in his hand, creating golden light rings that floated away one after the other. A strange scene unfolded. As the white blades of light entered the rings of light, they instantly dissipated, vanishing into thin air without a trace. This sight left the White Tiger Demon Emperor momentarily stunned. Despite controlling the entire battlefield with his divine consciousness, he simply couldn't understand how or where his attacks had disappeared. As he watched his blades get devoured by the golden rings, a sudden sense of danger crept into the White Tiger Demon Emperor's heart. He halted in midair, rapidly retracting his 7 kills domain while his body expanded in size. With immense divine consciousness, he launched a direct spiritual assault on Tang San. You can neutralize energy attacks, but can you neutralize divine consciousness? Tang San answered with his actions, yes, I can. The golden rings expanded, and the White Tiger Demon Emperor's powerful divine consciousness attack vanished into nothing, like a clay ox sinking into the sea. Then the golden rings seemed to gain awareness, heading straight toward the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor flapped his wings, attempting to escape. However, he only saw a flash before a golden ring fastened around him. A powerful constrictive force bound him, tightening around him like a golden python. The White Tiger Demon Emperor was astonished. What kind of ability was this? Despite the enormous gap in their cultivation levels, Tang San was actually able to trap him? It was simply unbelievable. Yet the reality was right before him, and he had no choice but to believe it. As Tang San raised the sea god trident, brilliant golden light burst forth, streaking toward him like a lightning bolt. But even now, the White Tiger Demon Emperor could not break free from the golden rings that bound him. This was unpredictable storm, the sea god's most powerful control technique. If it were so easy to break free from, how could Tang San have caused the Tenebrous Demon Emperor to feel so terrified? Though the White Tiger Demon Emperor ranked above the Tenebrous Demon Emperor, he was not that much stronger. Meanwhile, Tang San was orders of magnitude stronger than he had been back then. He had used unpredictable storm at the cost of nearly sacrificing his life to scare away the Tenebrous Demon Emperor. Now, having reached godhood, he no longer needed to pay such a heavy price, and this unpredictable storm was far closer to its former strength. Using it at his current cultivation level was still taxing, draining his divine consciousness and internal energy considerably, but it was much better than before. Die! The White Tiger Demon Emperor roared, his eyes gleaming with intense white light. His killing intent became almost tangible, forming a layer of light around him. It wasn't a defensive move, but an all-out release of power. This was the true difference between the White Tiger Demon Emperor and the Tenebrous Demon Emperor, and why the latter simply could not compare to the former. It was not power but spirit. In the face of crisis, the White Tiger Demon Emperor thought only of counterattacking with all his might, while the Tenebrous Demon Emperor's first reaction had been to shrink away in fear. The dazzling golden light exploded in the air, scattering into countless golden rain-like particles. The White Tiger Demon Emperor was sent flying hundreds of meters, crashing into the ground. Tang San, too, was breathing heavily, and the golden glow of the sea god's trident in his hand had dimmed noticeably. Only now did the golden rings around the White Tiger Demon Emperor slowly dissipate. The golden shadow behind Tang San solidified once more as his depleted divine consciousness began to recover quickly. The 8 bloodline imprints within him circled the Chaos Blue-Silver Emperor, radiating a strange glow that accelerated his recovery. However, the combined drain from using unpredictable storm and an all-or-nothing attack was still immense, and it would take time to recover fully. The White Tiger Demon Emperor sprang back up immediately after hitting the ground. He was perfectly unscathed, but the astonishment in his eyes could not be disguised. 10th Order. He's only at the 10th Order. Though the White Tiger Demon Emperor hadn't been harmed, he had felt a significant threat at that moment. He was aware that Tang San hadn't used his full strength in that last strike. Otherwise, he might have been actually injured. What kind of legacy did he receive? These techniques are simply ridiculous. If this kid was on the same level as me, that attack just now might have killed me. And what the hell are those rings? How is it possible for them to bind me like that? However, These thoughts only flashed through his mind for an instant before he regained his composure. At the same time, he noticed that Tang San had overexerted himself. With his vast combat experience, the White Tiger Demon Emperor wasted no time. In an instant, he launched himself at Tang San. His wings flapped behind him, and his 7 kills domain locked onto Tang San. 7 immense waves of killing intent transformed into direct attacks, cutting off all of Tang San's escape routes and closing in to obliterate him. The White Tiger Demon Emperor used about 30% of his power for this strike. He could tell that Tang San utilized his transcendent bloodline, and the golden armor provided extraordinary defense. He wanted to test just how strong Tang San's defenses were. Faced with the encroaching killing intent, Tang San remained calm. Another white ring of light burst out from his body. As the ring spread, the White Tiger Demon Emperor felt an odd sense of disorientation. In his perception, Tang San seemed to become a part of his 7 kills domain for an instant, causing his 7 waves of killing intent to lose their target. He had to forcibly lock onto Tang San once more with his divine consciousness before the 7 strikes could resume their assault. But at that moment their speed had dropped considerably. Tang San's golden figure flickered in place. Due to the restrictions of the 7 kills domain, combined with the vast difference in their cultivation levels, the effect of the space-time lighthouse had been greatly diminished. Although he did his best to dodge, for waves of killing intent still struck him. What puzzled the White Tiger Demon Emperor was that instead of using the obviously powerful Sea God Trident to defend, Tang San chose to block the attack with the fingernail blades of his golden armor. With his cultivation level, even at only 30% strength, the White Tiger Demon Emperor's attack sent Tang San crashing down from the air, and cracks appeared all over his golden armor. However, the shock in the White Tiger Demon Emperor's heart grew even stronger. He knew very well how powerful his attacks were. Given the vast gap in cultivation, he had expected that even if his attack didn't take Tang San out of the fight, it should at least have shattered his armor or inflicted some injury. When the killing intent struck Tang San, the White Tiger Demon Emperor noticed that under the influence of the extreme fortune domain, although the attacks still hit, they all landed on the areas with the toughest defense, mainly his chest and back. The golden armor had sustained some damage, but it was far from destroyed. Behind Tang San, the halo spun rapidly, and his armor was astonishingly repairing itself. In other words, after taking a hit with 30% of his power, this kid was completely unscathed. This series of exchanges gave the White Tiger Demon Emperor a clear judgment of Tang San's strength. Whether attack, defense, or control, Tang San had reached an incredible level, far beyond that of an ordinary Great Demon King. He was in fact much stronger than Mei Gongzi had been after becoming a Great Demon King herself. Yet Tang San had only just become a Demon King himself. The White Tiger Demon Emperor knew that for a fact, having seen the tribulation with his own eyes. He was just having entered the 10th Order and already possessing such combat power. How terrifying would he become if given enough time to grow? At that moment, Tang San grinned at the White Tiger Demon Emperor. At some point, the Sea God's trident in his hand had solidified once more. Left, right, up and down, one golden ring after another flew out from him, heading straight for the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes gleamed as his full power erupted, and his 7 kills domain peaked. But it was all in vain. In the face of those golden rings, all of his power seemed to melt away. In the end, the golden rings easily wrapped around the White Tiger Demon Emperor, binding him once again. This time, however, Tang San did not attack. Instead, he stood still, rapidly regaining his energy and recovering from the expenditure of unpredictable storm. He was confident that even when facing an emperor, he could at least escape because of this powerful divine ability. Even in the realm of the gods, unpredictable storm was hailed as the strongest control technique. Not even a god king could escape its grasp. Due to this divine ability, Tang San had become the first god king of his divine realm. No matter how powerful the opponent was, they would be restrained by unpredictable storm. And naturally, the attacks that followed would not be weaker in any way. Moreover, Tang San's own defenses were also incredibly strong. With his immaculate golden body, combined with the golden armor transformation, dragon rock transformation, and lion tiger transformation. Even if he couldn't defeat an emperor, he could at least defend himself and trap them for a while. Back in the God realm, when Tang San's cultivation was equal to his opponent's, no God King could break free from unpredictable storm in under 10 seconds. And right now, in spite of the difference in cultivation, even a powerhouse like the White Tiger Demon Emperor could be trapped by unpredictable storm for at least 3 seconds. At this moment, if it were a battle to the death, 3 seconds would be more than enough for Tang San to unleash an all-out attack, regardless of the price he had to pay for it. Severely injuring an emperor was not out of the question. Moreover, he had Mei Gongzi by his side. She was already a great demon king, and her connection with the Azura sword had reached a new level. With both of them possessing the sword intent of the Azura sword, if they joined forces, Tang San restraining the opponent's movement with unpredictable storm, and Mei Gongzi attacking with the Azura sword, even emperors would struggle. Against someone like the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, who was the weakest of all emperors, they could in fact aim for the kill. This was the source of Tang San's confidence. Caught in unpredictable storm, the White Tiger Demon Emperor once again felt that helpless, painful sensation. It was an agonizing feeling, yet he had no way to escape. Since there was no immediate follow-up attack this time, the White Tiger Demon Emperor managed to struggle free after 4 seconds and launched another assault. Tang San naturally couldn't block the White Tiger Demon Emperor's attack, and this time the Emperor used 50% of his power against him. The golden armor shattered in multiple places, and blood streaks appeared across his skin. But that was all. Before Mei Gongzi's startled cry had even finished, the blood streaks disappeared, and the golden armor began to repair itself rapidly. Tang San acted as if nothing had happened, and he really was mostly unaffected. Moreover, since he hadn't used a powerful follow-up technique this time, his divine consciousness wasn't as depleted, and he could use unpredictable storm again soon after. The White Tiger Demon Emperor once more felt helpless and frustrated. While the White Tiger Demon Emperor was both frustrated and overwhelmed, the shock in his heart grew stronger. He still believed that if he unleashed his full power, he could kill Tang San. However, Tang San's technique was simply too formidable. If he got the chance to make the first move, he could indeed trap an emperor. Moreover, the White Tiger Demon Emperor sensed that if Tang San went all out with his attacks, he could indeed injure him. Back when Tang San faced the Tenebrous Demon Emperor, he had been certainly intimidating, but causing real damage would have required him to actually lay down his life. Even unpredictable storm had drained all of his power. How could he have the energy for a follow-up? But now he was far from his former self, and he was truly capable of injuring even the strongest. Moreover, the White Tiger Demon Emperor was well aware that Tang San hadn't fully unleashed his bloodline powers. For instance, he hadn't used that Yin-Yang bloodline power at all. He seemed to be holding back, but the White Tiger Demon Emperor knew that was not actually the case. Wasn't that using that power was detrimental to Tang San. It was simply that he had chosen to fight a battle of attrition rather than going full blast. Had this been a fight to the death, there would have been no second use of unpredictable storm. Once the first one trapped him, Tang San would have unleashed all his strength in a desperate burst. How much damage such an attack would have inflicted on him was hard to say, but some degree of injury would have been inevitable. A human who had just reached the 10th order could actually harm a demon emperor. Such an idea was simply ludicrous, but the harsh reality was that Tang San truly had the capability to do it. The White Tiger Demon Emperor narrowed his eyes, and after breaking free once again, he attacked once more with increased intensity. This time, as Tang San responded, he also used more of his own power. Before the attack struck him, white light burst from his body as the Lion-Tiger transformation and Golden Armor transformation fused, generating a powerful repelling force that neutralized part of the killing intent directed at him. Then the Golden Armor shattered again. This time, the White Tiger Demon Emperor used 60% of his power. Tang San's body was riddled with countless wounds. Yet in the next moment, he rapidly recovered, though the Golden Armor took a bit longer to repair this time. Did he just fucking block 60% of my power? In spite of his disbelief, the White Tiger Demon Emperor didn't pause this time. His wings flapped, his silhouette flickered, and in an instant, he appeared in front of Tang San. His massive tiger paw swelled, reaching to grab the young man. He had been restrained by Tang San 3 times already. Where was the dignity of an emperor? He could tell that Tang San's rings of golden light were not produced at 0 cost. On the contrary, the cost was high, and it wasn't easy for him to recover his divine consciousness and internal energy quickly. Tang San could keep using this restraining technique consecutively because he had foregone the use of other bloodline powers, instead focusing entirely on recovery. So you want to keep drawing those circles, huh? Let's see how you restrain me when I break your hands. Faced with the unavoidable white tiger claw, Tang San remained calm. His eyes suddenly changed color. One turned black and the other white, giving him an eerie and otherworldly appearance. The next moment, a spark shot out from the tip of his left finger. The moment that spark appeared, the white tiger demon emperor felt his heart tremble violently. His white tiger claw immediately dissipated, and he flapped his wings, retreating like a bolt of lightning. An emperor's instincts told him that he absolutely could not allow that spark to touch him, or he would be in serious trouble. But at that moment he saw the smile on Tang San's face. A loud phoenix cry echoed, and the spark suddenly expanded, transforming into a firebird that sped toward the white tiger demon emperor. The firebird shimmered with 9 radiant colors, and a golden red crown adorned its head. The 9 colors were red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, black, and white. Facing this firebird, the white tiger demon emperor unleashed his 7 kills domain, sending countless waves of killing intent spiraling toward it. Yet a bizarre scene unfolded the next moment. Wherever the firebird flew, the killing intent simply vanished, unable to stop it. The white tiger demon emperor's expression changed. To his horror, he realized that his killing intent and even his bloodline power were becoming fuel for the firebird. Instead of weakening it, they only made it fly toward him faster. The white tiger demon emperor snorted coldly, reaching out with his right hand. 5 dark ink-black blades extended from his claws. White tiger hell claw. The 5 black blades slashed through the air, creating a black hole-like vortex that forcibly swallowed the firebird. With his vast battle experience, the white tiger demon emperor had immediately realized that the firebird could burn anything, even divine consciousness. The best strategy was to pull it into another space rather than confront it head-on. However, at that moment, with the white tiger demon emperor focused entirely on the firebird, the space-time lighthouse appeared in Tang San's hand. A strange glow flickered on the tower. The instant after the black hole swallowed the firebird, it reappeared fully intact. Its 9 colored flames expanded rapidly, transforming into a rain of fire that cascaded toward the white tiger demon emperor. The white tiger demon emperor's face shifted. He clawed at the air, producing countless black claw shadows that shredded space itself, creating numerous spatial rifts to consume the falling sparks. When some of the sparks collided with the edges of the spatial rifts, even the rifts were burned and distorted, crumbling apart. The power of these sparks was evident. Time reversal! The white tiger demon emperor muttered in confusion. Indeed, the firebird had been swallowed, so how had it returned? It was time reversal. The bird had not been recreated. Rather, Tang San had rewound time to just before the firebird was devoured by the vortex. This kid's abilities have no end. Tang San smiled slightly. Your Majesty, shall we call it a day? The sparks were finally fully consumed, and the way the white tiger demon emperor looked at Tang San grew increasingly strange. By this point in the battle, he had seen plenty of unexpected things. Yet he still felt as though he hadn't reached the depths of Tang San's true power. In other words, he hadn't been able to draw out the young man's full power. Of course, if this had been a true fight to the death and the white tiger demon emperor had gone all out from the beginning, the pressure would have been far greater, and he was confident he could have killed Tang San instantly. However, he had to admit that, if Tang San managed to gain the upper hand first and used unpredictable storm to trap him, things might not have gone so smoothly. The power of that firebird just now was clearly extraordinary. It would have left him completely bald if it had fully engulfed him, and that was assuming it didn't roast his skin as well. He couldn't help but ask, "What kind of flame was that just now?" Tang San replied, "It's the initial form of something I've been working on. I haven't named it yet, but it contains different types of flames, along with yin-yang energy. As you could see, it's quite overpowering. I'm trying to harmonize the different traits of these flames and integrate them. In the future, it should become a form of divine fire." How was that firebird created? It was formed from the combination of rainbow skyfire liquid, the phoenix true fire of the immortal flame phoenix clan, and the ultimate yin-yang energy. Only Tang San had the ability to fuse such domineering elements, and the fusion of these forces produced something that even shocked him. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's reaction earlier was absolutely perfect, as expected of someone with such rich experience. To deal with such flames, direct confrontation was simply not an option, not even for an emperor. They had to be redirected. Tang San had managed to create this flame only after becoming a god, and only a small amount. Melding these three overwhelmingly powerful forces together was incredibly difficult, largely because his cultivation wasn't high enough just yet. With the amount of flame he could currently condense, it would be hard to truly injure an emperor, but it could definitely entangle one for a short while. This was one of Tang San's trump cards. Today, showing it to the White Tiger Demon Emperor was to give him a glimpse of his hidden power. Of course, this was not Tang San's only trump card. After becoming a god, Tang San had undergone a complete transformation, and all of his battle tactics and strategies now targeted opponents at the emperor level. Lesser opponents required no such effort. You're really something else. And that's not flattery, the White Tiger Demon Emperor said seriously. Tang San was already this terrifying at the 10th order. If he reached the 12th order and became an emperor, his power would even surpass that of the old Crystal Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor was confident in his judgment. Tang San bowed slightly in acknowledgement. Thank you for the compliment. Since I'll be staying here for a while, I hope we can spar more often. I have many different abilities, but they are fairly random and scattered. I need pressure from a strong opponent like you to help me fuse them together and create a few divine powers. That's the only way I can improve my strength further. You're at the peak of the 10th order now, right? Don't you plan to ascend to the Great Demon King level soon? Tang San shook his head. Norus. Slow and steady growth will yield the best results. I still need to accumulate more. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's mouth twitched. You're a fresh 10th order who can fight emperors and you still need to accumulate more? Accumulate what, exactly? I want to spar too. At that moment, a melodious voice rang out, drawing the attention of Tang San and the White Tiger Demon Emperor. Naturally, it was Mei Gongzi speaking. Her beautiful eyes sparkled as she looked at Tang San and the White Tiger Demon Emperor. She had been the sole observer of the fight just now. Initially, she had been worried, fearing that the White Tiger Demon Emperor would injure Tang San. But as the fight unfolded, she gradually realized that Tang San could genuinely hold his own against her grandfather. This revelation not only left her shocked, but also stirred her competitive spirit. She had always been the best from a young age, and was now the youngest Great Demon King in history. Being with Tang San made her feel secure, but seeing his strength now, she suddenly felt a sense of urgency. She couldn't afford to be left behind. The White Tiger Demon Emperor glanced at her and said, "If you want to spar, go against him. He has so many different abilities that fighting him is like battling a bunch of different people at once." Mei Gongzi nodded, looking at Tang San. "Shall we?" Seeing the sparkle in her eyes, Tang San smiled. "All right." Mei Gongzi asked, "That ability you used to trap my grandfather, was it derived from the mysterious circles of heaven? Can I learn it?" Tang San nodded. "Of course you can. I can teach you, but it isn't easy. It requires a high level of divine consciousness, and you'll need to reach the 12th order to master it fully. But you can start learning it now and maybe use part of its power. This technique is called Unpredictable Storm, and to unleash its full potential, you need to use the Sea God's Trident. I can create one for you to try." The White Tiger Demon Emperor's eyes nearly popped out of his head as he listened. What the? Can that technique be taught? And he can even create a divine artifact. Having personally experienced the power of Unpredictable Storm, the White Tiger Demon Emperor now understood just how terrifying the technique was. In terms of restraining an opponent, it was unlike anything he had ever seen on the entire demon continent. While the Crystal Demon Emperor had been able to overpower him, it had been through sheer strength. Restraining him using a divine technique not tied to bloodline power was simply beyond her abilities. Yet Tang San had managed precisely that. The White Tiger Demon Emperor valued Unpredictable Storm even more than the Firebird. That unpredictable storm couldn't be solved by tearing through space. It was useless. This divine technique simply ignored space. And now, with just a word from Mei Gongzi, Tang San agreed to teach her. even willing to condense a divine weapon for her to use. No wonder. No wonder this kid captured my granddaughter's heart. Hell, forget about her. I don't even know if I could refuse him if he came to me with that kind of present. Mei Gongzi, however, snorted. No need to rush to learn it. When we spar, you can't use that ability to trap me, or that firebird. All right. Tang San smiled indulgently. Do you want to rest for a bit? Tang San shook his head. No need, I'm good. A man can't say he's not up for it, right? The White Tiger Demon Emperor had initially planned to watch their sparring, but after hearing Tang San's cheesy comment, he groaned. Are you fucking sparring or flirting? You two spar on your own. I'm heading out. When you're ready to leave, use your divine consciousness to make the space react and I'll bring you out, the White Tiger Demon Emperor said, acting as if he hadn't heard anything. Understood, Your Majesty. Tang San didn't try to stop him. He planned to use this time to teach Mei Gongzi a few things. Secrets that only he and his wife could know. The White Tiger Demon Emperor turned into a streak of light and vanished. Mei Gongzi walked up to Tang San, looking him over. You didn't get hurt just now, did you? Tang San shook his head. Don't worry, I'm fine. My recovery ability is so strong now that it's hard for me to die, even if I want to. Mei Gongzi blinked. Is that so? It seems the tribulation was helpful for you. Yes, actually, Tang San began but suddenly felt that something was off. In the next moment, Mei Gongzi was suddenly holding him tight from behind. A strange spatial fluctuation instantly enveloped him, even isolating the space-time lighthouse that was still in his hand. Mei Gongzi's soft body pressed against him, her delicate arms wrapping around his neck. The power of space wholly sealed off all his bloodline abilities, leaving him firmly under her control. Hee, do you admit defeat? You said we could start right away. This is just tactics, hee. How can you do this? Tang San said with a face full of surprise. Mei Gongzi smugly said, I told you it's tactics. Now are you going to admit defeat? Feeling her pressing tightly against his back, and her warmth and fragrance enveloping him, Tang San wasn't in the least bit anxious. What happens if I admit defeat? No, wait, what happens if I don't? Mei Gongzi pushed. What happens? I don't even know. So you're still not conceding? She asked. Then I'll use more strength. Tang San feebly attempted to struggle, which only ended up causing their bodies to press even closer together. Little Mei, I'll admit defeat, but can you promise me one thing? Tang San said in a soft tone. You can only use this kind of move on me. Mei Gongzi was stunned. What do you mean? Tang San sighed softly. Well, you see, it feels pretty good actually. Mei Gongzi froze. She instinctively glanced down at herself, noticing how tightly she was holding him. Her face instantly flushed bright red. She quickly let go and shoved him away. You scoundrel. Tang San stared helplessly. How am I the scoundrel? I wasn't the one jumping on you and grabbing you from behind. Who's the scoundrel here? It's you. It's definitely you. Mei Gongzi fumed with embarrassment and anger, and she instantly charged at Tang San. Her hand turned into a tiger claw, slashing straight at his chest. Tang San didn't dodge or block the attack. Mei Gongzi's strike landed squarely on Tang San's chest. But then, she noticed Tang San wasn't even using his golden armor transformation. She was startled by her own action and instinctively tried to pull back, but Tang San grabbed her wrist and pulled her straight into his arms. What are you doing? Before she could even finish her sentence, Tang San's lips were already blocking hers. After a long moment, just as Mei Gongzi was about to run out of breath, she finally managed to push him away. Tang San looked at her innocently. You were the one who seduced me earlier. I couldn't resist. Who seduced you? You're awful. I'm going to kill you in a duel like a real man. Tang San smirked. Come on then, give it your all. You won't be able to hurt me. You dare to underestimate me? Mei Gongzi said indignantly. But from that strike earlier, she already knew Tang San's defense was truly formidable. When she hit him earlier, even though she hadn't used much force, she had been in her white tiger transformation state. Yet when she struck Tang San, his chest felt as tough as metal, and at the same time a strange elastic force neutralized her attack, as if she'd struck a piece of meat jelly. She hadn't even been able to break his skin. Mei Gongzi leaped backward, putting distance between herself and Tang San. I'm going to get serious. Tang San's expression also turned serious, and he nodded at her earnestly. All right, let's go. Silver ripples of light spread out from Mei Gongzi, and behind her, a massive silver peacock shadow appeared. Her strongest ace remained her peacock transformation. Now that her cultivation had reached the 11th order, the peacock transformation had grown even more formidable. The intense spatial fluctuations distorted the surrounding space into rippling waves. She actually wasn't going all out, but within a 100-meter radius, everything appeared twisted and blurred, making it hard to clearly see her figure. This was Mei Gongzi's domain. Upon reaching the level of a great demon king, her original spatial domain had undergone a qualitative transformation. Mei Gongzi grasped at the air with her right hand, and the celestial plume leaped into her palm. She pointed it toward the sky and tiny silver lights immediately appeared, like countless stars twinkling in the sky. With a wave of the celestial plume, the distorted space began to move. A powerful twisting force emanated from the spatial ripples, pressing down on Tang San, seeking to suppress him and lock him in place. Tang San didn't use the space-time lighthouse. Instead, his golden armor transformation was activated once again. His golden claws extended, tearing apart the distorted space with sheer force, creating a path. His powerful bloodline energy surged, emitting a golden glow around his body. With the golden armor as a shield and the golden claws as a sword, he steadily advanced toward Mei Gongzi. The golden armor transformation was overwhelmingly dominant. No matter how unpredictable the power of space became, he would simply break through with brute strength. The dense spatial force was continuously torn apart, and as Tang San moved forward step by step, space crumbled in his wake. He was getting closer and closer to Mei Gongzi, but at that moment Mei Gongzi began to move, her long dress fluttering as she danced gracefully. All the spatial power around her began to stir in response to her dance. The vast amount of spatial energy suddenly twisted into strands, intertwining and spinning. These strands of spatial force became incredibly solid, woven together like threads. The once single-dimensional spatial power had now been twisted into spatial ropes. These ropes were so solid that even with Tang San's claws, it was impossible to cut through them in one strike. Multiple attacks were required. The spatial ropes multiplied, continuously wrapping around Tang San, exerting increasing pressure. Impressive! Tang San couldn't help but praise her control over space. Mei Gongzi's days of seclusion had not been in vain. She had truly stabilized her cultivation at the Great Demon King level, and her mastery over spatial power was remarkable. The glow of the golden armor intensified. Fueled by his potent internal energy, the fiery golden light began to burn the spatial ropes, while the power of his golden claws surged. But at that moment, a silver pillar of light suddenly descended from the sky, shining directly onto Tang San. Tang San suddenly felt an emptiness in his body, and in that instant, it was as if another version of himself had appeared in the distance. This other self seemed to have a large portion of the power he had used to attack, along with a significant amount of the power behind his golden armor transformation. When he realized something was wrong, he hurriedly pulled back, but even so, at least half of the energy he had been emitting had been taken away. Hee, you like it? It's the evolved version of Star Shift Void Plunder. Impressive. So she used Star Shift to move away not my attack, but the very energy I am projecting. In terms of understanding space, Mei Gongzi had long since surpassed the Peacock Great Demon King of old. Even though the Peacock Great Demon King was at the very peak of the 11th Order and the finest space manipulator of his time, he still fell short. When facing the Crystal Phoenix Great Demon Emperor, his abilities lacked the finesse and precision Mei Gongzi now displayed. With a portion of his power severed, the thick spatial ropes around him showed no mercy as they wrapped around him. He was completely restrained. Tang San's muscles tensed as the spatial ropes tightened around him, pressing closer. A smile tugged at the corner of Tang San's mouth, and a sense of pride filled his heart. The stronger Mei Gongzi became, the happier he was. But then he raised his right hand, and a surge of silver light flowed around him. He pointed his finger at the spatial rope in front of him, and a strange scene unfolded. As soon as his finger touched the rope, it began to unravel. The tightly woven spatial folds instantly broke apart into countless fine threads. Mei Hongxi was stunned. How could this be? Tang Sen also used the peacock transformation, so why did his control over spatial power seem even more skillful than hers? No, that's not just spatial power. What is it? Although these thoughts raced through her mind, her attack didn't stop. The fine threads of space energy suddenly glowed with a faint golden light, transforming into razor-sharp threads that shot toward Tang San. This was the golden fiend energy that Mei Gongzi had absorbed during her 6 Directions 8 Desolations golden fiend tribulation. She had since fused it with her spatial power, enhancing its lethality. A brilliant light gleamed in Tang San's eyes, and in the next moment, black and white beams of light shot out from the center of the halo behind him, enveloping him in a black and white barrier. As the spatial threads touched the barrier, they instantly disintegrated, unable to reach him. In fact, the surrounding spatial energy dissipated altogether upon contact with the black and white barrier, leaving Tang San completely unharmed. What is that? Mei Gongzi asked curiously. Even when facing the White Tiger Demon Emperor, Tang San hadn't used this technique. This is a protective technique that fuses yin-yang energy with a new power that I recently discovered. During my 9 Heavens 10 Earths divine extinguishing tribulation, I encountered an incredible annihilation force. When yin and yang energy collide, they also produce a similar effect. These two actually complement each other, creating a self-sustaining cycle of annihilation energy that I can use at will. This is one of my trump cards. The reason he hadn't used it against the White Tiger Demon Emperor was simply that it was too precious. While it would have been effective even against such a powerful opponent, it also consumed a lot of energy. Annihilation energy needed to be slowly accumulated, and the only way to do so was by using up yin-yang energy. Much like his divine consciousness back in the day, it was a very limited resource and it took a long time to generate. Naturally, it was also truly formidable. In this particular case, however, it was the perfect thing to use against Mei Gongzi's golden fiend energy. Higher-level tribulation energy inherently suppressed lower-level tribulation power, so he didn't need to use all that much. Mei Gongzi's strength was formidable, making her difficult to deal with. With Tang San agreeing not to use Unpredictable Storm or his new divine fire, defending against her full-power attacks wasn't a simple task. After all, she had already reached the 11th order, and her understanding of space, although taught by Tang San himself, had surpassed his original teachings. She was among the absolute strongest contenders at the Great Demon King level. How am I supposed to fight this? Mei Gongzi pouted in frustration, letting her spatial power fade away. Tang San gazed at the fading starlight in the sky and remarked thoughtfully, "Your void plunder is incredibly powerful. You even managed to strip away some of my internal energy. You don't even have to go all out with that. It's enough if you weaken the opponent for a moment. If you use it right before an explosive attack, it's practically unavoidable." Impressive. Mei Gongzi grinned, not without a hint of pride. Of course. I created this by adding a pulling force to Star Shift. The stronger your burst of power during a fight, the more energy I can remove from you. Tang San gave her a thumbs up. You've already surpassed your master. I think you can continue to develop this in 2 main directions. First, you could try to use it from multiple angles at the same time. If you drain a massive amount of energy, then even if the opponent has amazing recovery, it will take them a good while to recover. In that state, they could be easily killed. I had no choice but to use this yin-yang annihilation force for protection just now, or I wouldn't have been able to hold on. The energy stripping was just too sudden. The second direction is to make it more stable. If the opponent has a powerful domain or their cultivation is higher than yours, they might be able to stabilize themselves and reduce the effect. But if you add some kind of force that could intimidate them, like the judgment intent of the Azura sword, it will be much more effective. Oh, actually, a third direction just occurred to me. You could use this in a group battle. If you're facing a group of enemies that aren't quite at your level, you could hit them with this void plunder and weaken them substantially, and then use the golden fiend space rifts to end them in one go. Mei Gongzi, who had been rather smug just moments before, now found herself absorbed by Tang San's ideas. These 3 directions were indeed ideal for improvement, and none of them seemed too difficult. In fact, she could probably do all of them. Nodding unconsciously, she thought to herself, that makes a lot of sense. Then she looked at Tang San. Hey, can I try again? Tang San sighed helplessly. Go ahead. I'll be your target. And so, the two began sparring and training together. For Mei Gongzi, Tang San was undoubtedly the best teacher. His vast knowledge, his rich experience, and especially his mastery over the application of divine consciousness left her feeling as if every moment with him was a moment of profound enlightenment. While instructing her, Tang San also worked on his own cultivation. As he had mentioned to the White Tiger Demon Emperor, what he needed now was to refine and consolidate his abilities, remastering a few divine techniques while he was at it. That was the foundation for contending with the emperors. Another critical factor was the coordination between him and Mei Gongzi. They shared many similar abilities, and as her strength grew, their teamwork became increasingly important. With the Golden Trident and the Azura Sword, two supreme divine artifacts, as long as they worked together effectively, even defeating an emperor wasn't out of the question. The White Tiger Demon Emperor would occasionally stop by to spar with them, mainly to apply pressure and help them unlock more of their potential. And the more he sparred with them, the more astonished the White Tiger Demon Emperor became. Their progress was simply too damn fast. In the case of Tang San, he wasn't quite sure how things were. After all, he had never seen Tang San go all out. But Mei Gongzi's progress couldn't be clearer to him. Whether it was the peacock transformation, the white tiger transformation, or the combination of the two, she was getting better almost every single day. When the White Tiger Demon Emperor first faced Mei Gongzi's void plunder, he truly suffered quite a loss. Although the difference in cultivation limited the amount of energy she could strip from him, that brief moment of weakness allowed Tang San, who was coordinating with her from the side, to seize the opportunity. He threw an unpredictable storm at the White Tiger Demon Emperor, restraining him for no less than a full minute before he broke free. The White Tiger Demon Emperor sometimes had the frightening thought that if these two kids really went all out, sparing no effort, he may not be able to deal with them. At first, he was fully confident in his ability to instantly kill them in a real battle. But as things progressed, that confidence gradually diminished. On the 90th day of Mei Gongzi's stay in the ancestral court, two guests arrived at the White Tiger Palace. What are you doing here? You should thank the heavens I didn't come looking for you. So how the hell do you have the nerve to show up here? As the White Tiger Demon Emperor looked at the person standing before him, he felt his anger boil like magma. If the implications weren't too severe, he would have long since killed this guy. Indeed, the newcomer was none other than the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. He truly couldn't lift his head in front of the White Tiger Demon Emperor, who by all rights should have been his father-in-law. In fact, he was quite afraid of the White Tiger Demon Emperor, not just because he had been beaten, but also because he had lost face through no fault but his own. Brother White Tiger, calm down. Can you do me a favor and let Shima say what he has to say? Lin Shima, an emperor though he was, didn't dare come alone to the tiger's lair. Accompanying him was another figure, currently the Empyrean Dominion's strongest powerhouse. In fact, if it hadn't been for the Undying Demon Emperor accompanying him, the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor wouldn't have even been allowed through the doors of the White Tiger Palace. The White Tiger Demon Emperor glanced at the Undying Demon Emperor and said, "If it weren't for you, I would have kicked him out already. The only reason I haven't chopped off his head yet is that I care about the Ancestral Court and the Empyrean Dominion. What else is there to say?" Lin Shima gave a bitter smile. "You're right, everything is my fault. I'll accept any punishment. But there are some matters I still need to talk to you about. This concerns Little Mei's future." "You dare to bring up Little Mei?" The White Tiger Demon Emperor slammed his hand on the table, instantly shattering a high-quality spirit stone table into pieces. "Hey, old tiger, calm down already," the Undying Demon Emperor urged him. The White Tiger Demon Emperor turned to the Undying Demon Emperor. "Do you even know about the things he's done?" The Undying Demon Emperor smiled awkwardly. "To be honest, I didn't know at first. I only found out recently. Seriously, why do you think I voted for her in the council hall? Because I think she can defend our land? Please don't insult me. Anyway, my point is, Little Mei carries the Phoenix bloodline. How could I not support one of our own?" The White Tiger Demon Emperor sneered coldly. "Don't play these games with me. In the first round, it was your Immortal Flame Phoenix clan that sent out a great Demon King to stop her. You only decided to because you saw how talented my Little Mei is. Heh, That little bastard Tang San saw through you perfectly. The undying demon emperor waved his hands helplessly. Hey, you can't put it that way. Celestial Fox is, after all, the overseer of the ancestral court. When he approached me, I had no grounds to oppose him. Besides, Little May's background can't be made public. That would affect everyone in the worst way possible. Also, in the end, didn't she pass her evaluation? Due to the two of us, I have to say. The White Tiger Demon Emperor snorted. Fine, I'll give you some face. Lin Shima, say what you need to say quickly. I don't want to see your face more than I absolutely have to. Lin Shima, the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, said helplessly. Your Majesty White Tiger, here's the situation. I've discussed it with His Majesty the Undying. Little May is my flesh and blood, and she carries the legacy of the Phoenix race. However, her Crystal Phoenix bloodline was crippled by the Peacock Great Demon King. I want to try to awaken her Phoenix bloodline again. With the Lord of all Phoenixes present, we can do it without even interfering with her Peacock Demon bloodline. If we are successful, she'll gain an additional bloodline power. The White Tiger Demon Emperor laughed, but his laughter was chillingly cold. What a clever little scheme you have. Let me guess, you plan to make Little May acknowledge her actual ancestry and make her a member of your Phoenix race. Brother White Tiger, don't be so stubborn without reason, said the Undying Demon Emperor. Let me finish this. You're right, we do hope Little May can acknowledge her Phoenix ancestry. I admit her talent impressed me first. But at the same time, you should understand me better than anyone else, because you're in the same situation. You know that we Phoenixes, just like those pesky dragons, have massive problems producing offspring. No matter how powerful we are individually, it doesn't change how difficult it is for us to preserve our lineage. Every single Phoenix born is a blessing for the entire race. Little May is already part of the Phoenix race either way. It would be best if she's willing to come with us, but if not, we won't force her. At the very least, we want the Phoenix race's bloodline to flow through her. That way, no matter what, in the future she won't stand against the Phoenix race. Shima was indeed wrong back then, so we don't expect forgiveness right now. All we hope is that Little May can regain the Phoenix race's bloodline, and that's enough. After hearing the Undying Demon Emperor's words, the White Tiger Demon Emperor frowned. In truth, this was a good thing for Mei Gongzi. Setting aside other concerns, the Phoenix race's bloodlines were incredibly powerful. This was something everyone knew. Whether it was the Crystal Demon Emperor or the Undying Demon Emperor standing before him, they were both among the strongest beings in history, which only proved the power of dragon and Phoenix bloodlines. Moreover, if Mei Gongzi indeed awakened the Phoenix bloodline, then the Phoenix race wouldn't be her enemy in the future. This would most certainly help her maintain her position as Lord of Kali City. It would also greatly benefit her future emperor evaluation. After all, she would have the support of 2 more emperors, and there were only 15 emperors in the entire ancestral court. All in all, this really isn't a bad deal at all. The only issue is the emotional hurdle. Can my daughter's suffering be for nothing just like that? Seeing the White Tiger Demon Emperor fall silent, Lin Shima realized there was an opportunity. He quickly said, Your Majesty White Tiger, I don't demand that Little May acknowledge me. I don't have the right to call myself her father, but helping her awaken the Phoenix bloodline would only benefit her without any harm. We have no conditions. We just hope to help her a little as a form of atonement. Please, I ask for your approval. The White Tiger Demon Emperor waved his hand, stopping him. He said in a deep voice, Agree to one thing and I'll let you see Little May. But whether she agrees to let you awaken her Phoenix bloodline will be up to her. If she refuses, nothing you say will change her mind, and I won't force her. Please speak, said the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, overjoyed. As long as Mei Gongzi could awaken the Phoenix bloodline, she would naturally be drawn closer to the Phoenix race in the future, giving them a chance to win her over. Awakening the Phoenix bloodline would benefit Mei Gongzi without any harm, so they dared to come. The White Tiger Demon Emperor continued. My condition is that when she is about to become an emperor, you will support her unconditionally. That is, whether or not she gives up her human identity. You understand? The Undying Demon Emperor nodded and replied solemnly. As long as she can awaken the Phoenix bloodline, she has our support. He was the current Phoenix Lord. and his agreement represented the entire Phoenix race's agreement. The White Tiger Demon Emperor's expression immediately softened. He nodded and said, "All right, wait here. I'll go ask her opinion. But let me tell you this. If she's strongly opposed, I won't force her." Of course, of course. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor, a monarch in his own right, looked slightly uneasy. His handsome appearance revealed the nervousness in his heart. Since he found out he had a daughter, his emotions had been in turmoil. He had spent countless sleepless nights reflecting on the past. His heart was filled with regret, and now he believed that if only he could relive those days, if only he knew that Su Qin was pregnant, he would have given up his goal of becoming an emperor just to be with her. On the day of Mei Gongxi's evaluation, he had watched as she faced one trial after another, his heart in agony. Mei Gongxi's excellence filled him, her biological father, with immense pride, and his paternal love surged wildly. But he also knew that Mei Gongxi would never acknowledge him. After all, as far as everyone knew, he wasn't just not her father. He was her father's killer. So he had endured in silence. Ultimately, he had sought out the Undying Demon Emperor, suggesting they help Mei Gongxi awaken her Phoenix bloodline, and asking him to go to the White Tiger Palace as a mediator. In truth, he didn't care much about Mei Gongxi's bloodline awakening. He only wanted a private moment to see her. He sorrowfully realized that he had never actually talked to his own daughter. Now all he wanted was to see her. When the White Tiger Demon Emperor arrived at the small plain, Tang San and Mei Gongxi were cultivating together. Their two figures separated and merged, their bloodline powers intertwined and coordinated, becoming increasingly harmonious. Various abilities emerged in rapid succession. Even with his cultivation level, the White Tiger Demon Emperor had to use his divine consciousness to capture their movements. By now, he had gained a certain understanding of Tang San's strength. Tang San's potential gave him a feeling of boundlessness, and every time they fought, he could sense that Tang San was still growing stronger. In particular, his use of his bloodline abilities was far smoother. Thanks to this month of sparring and cultivation, he had figured out a lot about how to combine them smoothly. That was the most terrifying aspect of his power. 8 bloodlines could be combined in numerous ways, and he could merge up to 3 bloodline powers simultaneously. Sensing the arrival of the White Tiger Demon Emperor, Tang San and Mei Gongxi descended from the sky as 2 light streams. Tang San stood behind Mei Gongxi, his hands resting on her waist. The aura surrounding Mei Gongxi betrayed her incredible cultivation. She was now at the peak of the 11th order. Silver starlight flickered and fell in the air, illuminating her and making her indescribably beautiful. Seeing this, the White Tiger Demon Emperor couldn't help but twitch. Not long ago, when he had sparred with Tang San and Mei Gongxi, he suffered greatly from this move. Even though he had been an emperor for centuries and his cultivation was incredibly stable, when facing Mei Gongxi enhanced by Tang San's support, her Void Plunder directly drained 30% of his strength. Then Tang San followed up with an all-out attack, nearly causing the old White Tiger to cough up blood. And their coordination wasn't even as good as it was now. The White Tiger Demon Emperor was fully convinced that if they continued to train, not only Tang San but even Mei Gongxi would surpass the achievements of the former Peacock Demon Emperor, and that was without her using the Celestial Plume to see the future. Tang San had already informed the White Tiger Demon Emperor that the Peacock Demon Emperor's early death was directly related to that. Therefore, he would not allow Mei Gongxi to use her Celestial Plume ability in this regard. The White Tiger Demon Emperor nodded toward the two of them and said, "There's something I need to discuss with you." As he spoke, his gaze fell on Mei Gongxi. "Little Mei, you need to be mentally prepared." "What's wrong, Grandpa?" Mei Gongxi asked, puzzled. The White Tiger Demon Emperor said in a deep voice, "Little Mei, the Undying Demon Emperor and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor are here." Her expression stiffened, and she remained silent. Tang San held her tiny hand, passing the warmth of his own to her. "What do they want?" Tang San asked. "They hope to help little Mei awaken her Phoenix bloodline. They want her to acknowledge her ancestry and become a member of the Phoenix race?" Tang San narrowed his eyes. The White Tiger Demon Emperor shook his head and said, "No, it's not that. They just want to help her awaken the Phoenix bloodline. As for acknowledging her ancestry, that's impossible. Not only does little Mei have no emotional connection with them, But even if she did, it cannot possibly happen now. Otherwise, would Kali City belong to the Peacock Demon clan, or the Phoenix race? Tang San turned to look at Mei Gongzi. Her delicate face was slightly pale, and her eyes were filled with a complex mix of emotions. Tang San gently squeezed her small hand and said, "Don't feel any pressure. Whatever you want to do, you can do. No one will force you." The White Tiger Demon Emperor nodded and said, "I feel the same way. You should only meet them if you agree. If you don't, I'll send them away. However, they've already promised that in the future, when you are about to become an emperor, they'll support you unconditionally, whether or not you still identify as human. From that perspective alone, I think it's worth considering. Also, gaining a Phoenix bloodline would undoubtedly benefit you. With Tang San's expertise in bloodline fusion, his guidance could make you even more powerful." Tang San nodded slightly. If Mei Gongzi gained the Phoenix bloodline, her strength would undoubtedly grow even more. It would also make breaking through to emperor status easier. Both the Phoenix and the Peacock could be considered supreme among avian demons. Despite their long-standing rivalry, these two top-tier bloodlines had the potential for synergy. Tang San had already experienced this himself, as he possessed both bloodlines. Before the Peacock Great Demon King's resurrection, Mei Gongzi would have undoubtedly refused without a second thought. But now that he was alive again in a way, her father's death was no longer a factor. Moreover, she could not deny that Lin Shima was her biological father. The blood bond remained no matter what he had done wrong, or how much her mother hated him. Mei Gongzi looked to Tang San for help, and from her gaze, he could see clearly that she didn't know how to decide. Tang San narrowed his eyes slightly and said, "How about we ask Xiaohe for his opinion? I think his perspective will help you a lot. If he supports it, you could give it a try." Mei Gongzi's eyes lit up. That's right. The Peacock Great Demon King and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor were sworn enemies. If she accepted his bloodline, how would he view her? But if he agreed to it, she would have no psychological burden. And deep down, she still wanted to meet her father face to face. "Let's go. Let's meet Xiaohe." Since his resurrection, Xiaohe had been refining his body with Tang San's help, cultivating the body sect techniques. He continuously strengthened himself. Although he couldn't achieve something like Tang San's immaculate golden body, as he tempered his body, Xiaohe gradually felt the difference between a human physique and the physique of a peacock demon. The human body was incredibly adaptable. At first, he had felt that the human body was far too weak compared to his former peacock demon body. But as time went on, he began to realize that this human body had an immense potential for development. Every day felt like a transformation, and he could no longer sense where the limits of this body lay. This was something he had never experienced before. When demons cultivated, the most important factor was bloodline strength. The stronger one's bloodline, the greater the potential. If the bloodline was weak, the potential would be low, and the level one could reach would be limited. The Peacock Great Demon King considered himself extremely intelligent, but no matter how hard he tried in the past, he could never touch the threshold of the Emperor level. He was extremely powerful among great demon kings, but his efforts to reach a higher level were in vain without a sufficiently powerful bloodline to support him. However, the human body was different. Human potential gave him a sense of boundlessness. He did not possess a demon bloodline. He was not even a hybrid but a pure human. Yet, through daily refinement, his power was only growing every day. He could sense that if he were to gain a demon bloodline in the future and cultivate the demonic god transformation, he would quickly reach the ninth order and be ready to attempt the divine tribulation. The more he cultivated, the more fascinated the Peacock Great Demon King became with the human body, and the more satisfied he was with his current state. He even began to think that by relying on this human body, he might truly have the chance to touch the realm of emperors in the future. The door opened and Tang San, Mei Gongzi, and the White Tiger Demon Emperor entered together. Xiaohe immediately stopped cultivating and looked at them with some surprise. The White Tiger Demon Emperor rarely visited. Normally it was just Tang San and Mei Gongzi who came to see him, so why had they all come together this time? Tang San led Mei Gongzi to the Peacock Great Demon King and got straight to the point. The Undying Demon Emperor and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor are here. They've come for little Mei. Xiaohe's eyelid twitched slightly. Let me guess. They want little Mei to accept them as family and awaken her phoenix bloodline. Mei Gongzi gazed at her adoptive father with a complex expression. Xiaohe smiled and said, "Go ahead, agree to it. This is something that has no downside, so why not accept? But make sure to negotiate for as many conditions as you can. For instance, they must allow you to keep your human blood and identity, and in the future when you ascend they have to support you. As for the Crystal Phoenix bloodline, I drained it completely back then, so technically it doesn't exist anymore. But the essence of a phoenix is still in your bones and it can indeed be awakened. But when you do that, don't take Lin Shima's bloodline. The Crystal Phoenix clan ranks at the bottom of the Phoenix race. If it weren't for an opportunity Lin Shima got from the Crystal Demon Emperor, he would have never become an emperor. If they want to awaken your Phoenix bloodline, they need to infuse you with pure blood essence. So ask for the blood essence of the Undying Demon Emperor. The Immortal Flame Phoenix lineage is the strongest of the Phoenix race. If we're going to do this, then we have to aim for the best." As he listened to Xiaohe's words, the White Tiger Demon Emperor's expression changed slightly. It was as if Xiaohe knew exactly what the Undying Demon Emperor and the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor had said when they arrived, as if he had witnessed it all with his own two eyes. Mei Gongzi looked at her adoptive father in surprise. "You're not against this?" Xiaohe shrugged and said, "Why would I be? After all, he is your biological father. To be honest, this is where I owe you the most. I used you and your mother to fight against him for many years, but that was for my own purposes, not yours. What needed to be done was done, and I've already won. The fact that you recognize me as your father makes me happy enough, so why would I restrict you in any way? If you gain the Immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline, your future achievements will be limitless. You could very well become the strongest emperor. At that point, Kali City will surely flourish under your leadership. I also believe you can lead the Peacock clan to greater heights and help them grow. As you all know, in our demon clan, strength is everything. Without sufficient strength, words mean nothing. So right now, your priority is to become stronger. Besides, if you restore the Phoenix bloodline, you'll gain the support of 2 emperors, and the entire Phoenix race will see you as one of their own. I know why the Undying Demon Emperor supports Lin Shima. It's nothing more than to ensure the Phoenix race has 3 emperors. In the future, when you become an emperor, the Phoenix race can claim another one of their own. Of course, the Peacock Demon clan can say they have an emperor too. And for His Majesty the White Tiger, it means there's someone to carry on his legacy. So everyone will support you. As they say, a righteous person can find helpers everywhere. The more support you have, the better it will be for your growth. I've already wronged you enough, so how could I make any demands of you? Go with peace of mind. And remember, I am no longer a member of the Peacock Demon clan, much less the Peacock Great Demon King. I am human. You are also human at the core, and for the sake of our kind, you should go." Hearing his words, Mei Gongzi suddenly felt a sense of clarity. She looked at Xiaohe and nodded gently. "Thank you." Xiaohe's gaze shifted to Tang San, and as their eyes met, Tang San gave him a slight nod. Xiaohe sighed inwardly. Not long ago, Tang San had come to him alone while Mei Gongzi was cultivating, to discuss the matter of her awakening the Phoenix bloodline. Without a doubt, the Phoenix race and the Peacock Demon clan were mortal enemies. Mei Gongzi, as the current leader of the Peacock Demon clan, awakening the Phoenix bloodline? From the perspective of the Peacock Great Demon King, this was something that absolutely could not be allowed. It would affect the purity of the clan leader's bloodline. However, Tang San had convinced him with just 2 sentences. Who is the Peacock Great Demon King? The one I see in front of me is a human named Xiaohe. From the perspective of humanity, having a top-tier powerhouse emerge from their ranks would be naturally immensely beneficial. Moreover, when Tang San had spoken to him, it wasn't in a tone of negotiation, it was one of certainty. Xiaohe was not one to be troubled by useless pride, and he was far more intelligent than the average person, so he naturally understood what Tang San meant. Thus, he had ultimately agreed, which was why the situation in front of them now seemed so relaxed. When it came to Tang San, Xiaohe had always felt a sense of mystery, as if he couldn't fully see through this young man. Humanity had produced such a wise person, perhaps they truly had a chance. The White Tiger Demon Emperor nodded and said, "What he says makes sense. I agree as well. Let's do it now." Tang-san, will you be joining us? Tang-san shook his head. It's fine if the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor sees me, but the Undying Demon Emperor must not. He might sense something. You can take Little Mei. Little Mei, if anything feels off, contact me. Mei Gongzi nodded and followed the White Tiger Demon Emperor out. Tang-san didn't leave with them. Instead, he closed the door behind them. Uncle Shao, how have you been feeling lately? Tang-san invited Xiaohe to sit down, then took a seat across from him. Xiaohe replied, I feel great. The more I practice the techniques you taught me, the more I can sense the unique qualities of the human body. No wonder the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor is so wary of humans. Human potential feels nearly limitless. While it seems like humans don't have any innate abilities, once they find the right method, they can keep growing and absorbing more, like a sponge. That's why the Redemption Society's strategy is to use intermarriage to obtain demonic god transformations, but perhaps that isn't the most suitable way. Tang-san shook his head and said, It's not that it wasn't suitable. Like you said, humanity's true potential and talent lie in learning. Beyond learning, there's also creativity. By continuously learning and creating, humans can achieve a more powerful future. But the demon and nymph races have always enforced a policy of keeping humans suppressed and ignorant. Slaves should have no time or space to think, after all. And since most humans die by the age of 30 due to the harsh environment, humanity never truly rose up. The key is that their creativity was never allowed to flourish. So what I'm doing now is giving humans a peaceful space to live, teaching them basic knowledge, and providing them with a path. In the future, they can tap into their creative instincts. Creativity is humanity's true talent. Upon hearing Tang-san's words, Xiaohe felt a sudden enlightenment, and his eyes brightened. Creativity, yes. You've put it perfectly. It's all about creativity. Tang-san smiled and said, Once we leave the ancestral court, I'm going to start working on creating. If you're interested, feel free to take a look. It might inspire you as well. Definitely. I have to be honest with you, since I've started to study this human body, life has become increasingly interesting for me, Xiaohe said with a smile. Tang-san chuckled. It seems you've let go of some things. Xiaohe gave a bitter smile in return. You literally swapped my entire body for something else. What could I not let go of? And even if I couldn't let it go, what good would it do? I can't return to who I was before. Besides, I never liked my old self, not even when I was my old self. Tang-san smiled slightly. That's the feeling of being reborn, isn't it? The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor was feeling somewhat anxious. He wasn't sure whether his daughter would accept the awakening of her Phoenix bloodline. In his understanding, Mei Gongzi must hate him deeply, just like Su Qin did. Could the White Tiger Demon Emperor persuade her? Does he even want to? Lacking confidence, he had begged the Undying Demon Emperor for a long time before coming, even willing to forget about Mei Gongzi's Crystal Phoenix bloodline, and have the Undying Demon Emperor infuse her with his blood essence instead. As a father, who would want to do that? But for Mei Gongzi, this was the best option. The Immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline's Nirvana rebirth ability would greatly enhance her safety. He dared not hope for much anymore. Just that his daughter would live well and someday become an emperor. The door opened, and the White Tiger Demon Emperor entered first. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor's gaze immediately shifted to the figure behind him. Mei Gongzi was dressed in a simple white outfit. Her long black hair was tied back into a neat ponytail, giving her a clean and sharp appearance. Her delicate face was slightly flushed, and her bright eyes were downcast, avoiding his gaze. As he looked at her, the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor suddenly felt a sense of déjà vu, like the first time he had seen Su Qin. It was just indescribable beauty. Even without makeup or rich garments and jewelry, she was flawless. Perfect. For a moment, he trembled slightly. The Undying Demon Emperor's gaze also focused on Mei Gongzi, his divine consciousness immediately sweeping over her. His focus was clearly different from that of the Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor. As his divine consciousness scanned Mei Gongzi, a peculiar glint flashed in his eyes. How long had it been since her evaluation? Yet Mei Gongzi's aura had already undergone significant changes. With the assistance of the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor, she had barely broken through to the Great Demon King level, but now her cultivation had fully stabilized. Her divine consciousness was clearly up to par, and her entire being appeared to be in flawless harmony. In fact, she was well on her way to the middle stage of the 11th order. Apart from that, faint silver light flickered around her, a sign of her natural affinity with the space element. When his divine consciousness scanned her, it felt as if it touched upon nothingness, a testament to her seamless integration with space. There was no doubt, her comprehension of space had reached an exceptionally profound level. Truly, unquestionably, the makings of an emperor. Not bad. The undying demon emperor couldn't help but praise her. Having reached this level at such a young age, she would stand at the pinnacle in the history of the ancestral court. Forget about the crystal phoenix demon emperor. Even the undying demon emperor himself hadn't been at this level when he was her age. The white tiger demon emperor motioned Mei Gongzi to go ahead, then glanced at the two phoenix demons. You talk to her yourselves. With that, he stepped aside and sat down. Finally able to get a good, close look at his daughter, Lin Shima was filled with a surge of emotions. He opened his mouth but found himself at a loss for words. It's good to meet you, little Mei. I hope you don't mind me calling you that, the undying demon emperor said, casting a disapproving glance at the other emperor beside him. Little Mei greets your majesty the undying and your majesty the crystal phoenix, Mei Gongzi said gracefully, her gaze calm and composed. Lin Shima took a deep breath, regaining some clarity as he looked at Mei Gongzi and gave a slight nod. The undying demon emperor spoke in a deep voice. Your bones and blood contain the bloodline of the phoenix race. I am willing to infuse you with my own blood essence to restore your phoenix bloodline. Rest assured about your peacock demon bloodline. Even though it's acquired and not innate, now that you've reached godhood, it's a true part of you and will not be affected. The white tiger bloodline has also made your body strong enough. Moreover, although the bloodline power of our immortal flame phoenix line is domineering, it possesses unique self-healing capabilities. If you succeed in awakening it, you will possess 3 first-tier bloodlines simultaneously. Not only is this unprecedented, but it will also give you limitless potential for the future. Are you willing? Mei Gongzi looked up at the undying demon emperor, paused briefly and then said, Thank you, your majesty. I am willing. Hearing her agree without hesitation, Lin Shima was overjoyed and immediately blurted out, Good. The undying demon emperor also smiled. He naturally valued such an outstanding young woman, and with his blood essence imbued into her, she would practically become his own descendant, part of the immortal flame phoenix line. Judging by Mei Gongzi's current state, reaching the emperor barrier was simply a matter of time, and not even a long time at that. The only question was whether she could succeed in that final push. And as long as she could harmonize the 3 bloodlines well, she would have no problem with that either. Very well. I will now check your bloodline power and physique to see if they can withstand the integration of an additional bloodline. If the awakening succeeds, you must continue to cultivate the phoenix bloodline, allowing it to grow and be in balance with the other 2. Only then can you further improve. Do not blindly push your cultivation level. Before reaching the 12th order, accumulation is paramount. Yes. Mei Gongzi nodded in agreement. The undying demon emperor's eyes suddenly brightened, and golden red light burst out. In an instant, Mei Gongzi felt the space around her shift, and she found herself in a world full of flames. Beneath her feet was scorching magma, and from the dark red sky, fire rain fell continuously. The extreme heat felt as if it would melt her body, and it was even causing her divine consciousness to warp violently. Instinctively, Mei Gongzi activated her peacock transformation. Her jet-black hair turned peacock blue and the power of space surged, placing her in what practically amounted to an isolated space that did not allow heat to go through. Additionally, a surge of almost palpable killing intent erupted from within her, repelling the approaching flames. The effects of the intense heat quickly diminished, but the surrounding flames grew increasingly fierce. Mei Gongzi hovered in place, the relentless heat attacks being warded off by the alternating interference of her 2 bloodline powers. Her white tiger transformation fused perfectly with the golden fiend energy of her divine tribulation, and the killing intent that erupted carried that murderous power. Although the white tiger transformation was closer to the metal element and fire-restrained metal as far as elemental power was concerned, it still greatly reduced the impact of the scorching heat. Mei Gongzi maintained a steady state, with her divine consciousness guarding her mind. She was not flustered at all. She knew this was the undying demon emperor's test of her condition, especially her toughness and endurance. And with that being the case, it was naturally best to hold out as long as possible. Time ticked by. Mei Gongzi didn't know exactly how much time passed, but it felt like an eternity. Suddenly, all the heat vanished, and she returned to the room. Seeing Mei Gongzi's calm expression, the undying demon emperor looked visibly surprised. He truly hadn't expected Mei Gongzi's endurance to reach such a level. The tribulation you overcame must have been quite extraordinary. To think that you could temper both your body and divine consciousness to such an extent. And for your peacock transformation and white tiger transformation to complement each other so well, merging seamlessly, that was beyond my expectations. Excellent, excellent, excellent. No wonder you were able to pass your evaluation even under those circumstances. You really have the makings of an emperor. Giving you my blood essence will not impact you negatively in any way. Sit down and let's do it. There's no point wasting more time. Yes, Your Majesty. Mei Gongzi sat down cross-legged on the spot. The undying demon emperor moved in front of her and also sat down cross-legged. The white tiger demon emperor and Lin Shima watched from the side, with the latter clearly more anxious. Earlier, the undying demon emperor had enveloped Mei Gongzi within his domain, conducting a thorough examination of her body and divine consciousness to assess her condition. Mei Gongzi's state turned out to be much better than he had imagined, especially the strength of her physique, which far exceeded his expectations. He was well aware that, among the great demon kings of the immortal Flame Phoenix line, none could compare. In fact, in terms of physique, perhaps only the great demon kings of the Behemoth and Golden Mammoth clans could compare. And then there was the problem of her divine consciousness, which far outclassed all of them. There was no doubt that when she achieved godhood, the lightning tribulation she endured had been extremely powerful, not only refining her body and divine consciousness, but also infusing it with a sharp, destructive aura. The more he sensed, the more satisfied he became with Mei Gongzi. Compared to Lin Shima back in the day, she was on an entirely different level. Although Lin Shima was now a demon emperor, he was undeniably the weakest among them, and his potential for future growth was limited. A celestial pillar 200 meters in height was likely the best he could achieve. But Mei Gongzi was different. The undying demon emperor deeply believed that she could inherit his mantle, and her future achievements would not be below his own. This was the judgment of the man who, in terms of actual combat power, was the strongest of the Empyrean dominion, comparable to the Sunborn Nymph Emperor on the Solstice Empire side. If that was what he felt, then it was most certainly correct. He hadn't been all too convinced by Lin Shima's arguments the first time, but after witnessing her feats during her evaluation and now that he had observed her inside and out, he only had one thought in mind. This child must be carefully nurtured. As the lord of the Phoenix race, his essence blood was incredibly precious. Once used, it would be permanently diminished, and it could even impact his future cultivation. However, the undying demon emperor had already reached the peak of the 12th order, and future cultivation was simply not something that he was concerned about. Even emperors had their limits, and the undying demon emperor had indeed struck the glass ceiling, as the crystal demon emperor once had. What made the crystal demon emperor fearsome was her ability to practically become 3 emperor-level beings with completely different abilities. In terms of sheer bloodline power and other such, the undying demon emperor was every bit her equal. A layer of golden red light enveloped Mei Gongzi and the undying demon emperor. A melodious phoenix cry resounded as faint golden red strands of light drifted toward Mei Gongzi's delicate figure, shrouding her within. The golden red light slowly merged into her skin, reaching all the way into her bones, causing a rosy blush to appear on Mei Gongzi's skin. The undying demon emperor was infusing Mei Gongzi's body with his aura as the Phoenix Lord, subtly influencing the very core of her bones, whence her bloodline stemmed. Behind Mei Gongzi, 2 shadows materialized almost simultaneously, a silver peacock and a winged white tiger. The 2 shadows were bathed in flames, and each released its own aura in an attempt to resist the phoenix fire. However, under the suppression of the undying demon emperor's aura, they were completely subdued. Mei Gongzi's delicate body remained stable. She felt a warm current flowing through her flesh and bones, penetrating deep into her very core, giving her a slightly itchy sensation. This feeling was very peculiar. It was as if something was slowly awakening within her and seeking to break out. However, the two bloodlines within her were in violent turmoil. Then a deep voice resounded. In Mei Gongxi's sea of consciousness, an overwhelming aura of authority erupted, forcibly suppressing the white tiger and peacock demon bloodlines. But at that moment, a crisp metallic sound rang within Mei Gongxi's sea of consciousness, causing the imposing aura to tremble violently. Even the undying demon emperor shivered slightly from the shock, and his expression betrayed pure astonishment. His divine consciousness had actually been impacted, and it now felt somewhat destabilized. It had been struck by a power that came from the core of Mei Gongxi's divine consciousness. The undying demon emperor then remembered a red light, the very light that had marked the defeat of the immortal flame phoenix great demon king not too long ago. It seemed that this sword was actually the true core of Mei Gongxi's divine consciousness. The undying demon emperor hadn't expected that the divine artifact fused within Mei Gongxi's consciousness could even shake his own. Yet he was not alarmed but rather delighted. The stronger Mei Gongxi was now, the greater her future achievements would be. No wonder she hadn't chosen the celestial plume as her life-bound artifact. It wasn't that she had failed the assessment, like she told the celestial fox demon emperor. It was simply that this sword was far superior to the celestial plume, so she had no reason to pick the latter. The undying demon emperor closed his eyes, and on his forehead, a golden red light began to emerge. It appeared to be a phoenix feather, shimmering brilliantly. Then, a small pink phoenix suddenly flew out from the center of his forehead. As soon as the pink phoenix appeared, the crystal phoenix demon emperor's expression changed. A crystalline barrier emerged on his skin, encasing him completely. The pink phoenix was the undying demon emperor's essence blood. He was the most powerful phoenix alive, and naturally, his essence blood exerted a strong suppressive force, even on the crystal phoenix demon emperor. Mei Gongxi's body shuddered violently when the little pink phoenix appeared. She felt the itch deep in her bones intensify almost tenfold, and in spite of herself she frowned deeply. The sensation was almost unbearable, as if her very bones were being squeezed of marrow. The pink phoenix circled above the undying demon emperor's head once before flying toward Mei Gongxi. It hovered above Mei Gongxi's head, and a pink glow descended from it, enveloping her. Mei Gongxi felt the itchiness throughout her body reach its peak, making her groan. Her skin was instantly tinged with a blood-red hue. The pink phoenix flickered lightly in the air and suddenly split, forming a smaller pink phoenix about a third of its original size. It swiftly descended, landing directly on Mei Gongxi's head. In an instant, golden red light rapidly spread down and wrapped her body, starting with her head, then concentrating in her spine. All the itchiness abruptly converged in her spine, and Mei Gongxi felt an intense heat erupt, instantly sweeping through her entire body. It was as if she was immersed in a fiery golden red ocean. The bloodline powers within her burst with energy, and it felt as if her very marrow was being extracted from her bones, creating an intense yet hollow pain. But even more heat continued to pour into her spine. It felt as if new marrow was being generated inside her bones. Ring upon ring of golden red light rippled outward from Mei Gongxi's body, accompanied by phoenix cries that reverberated within the grand hall of the White Tiger Palace. Yes, they emerged from within her. This was Mei Gongxi's bloodline power, the phoenix bloodline origin that was hers in the first place, resonating with the blood essence of the undying demon emperor. Within her body, Mei Gongxi saw the pink phoenix flying freely, passing through each bone. Everywhere it went, her bones underwent earth-shaking changes, turning into golden red as more bloodline power continuously overflowed from them. Mei Gongxi could even feel her bone marrow turning pink as the phoenix passed by. While a unique, peculiar sensation also emerged in her divine consciousness, the inherited consciousness of the immortal Flame Phoenix clan. This allowed her to gain insight and begin to perceive the characteristics of the immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline. She had just been injected with the blood essence of the strongest member of the immortal Flame Phoenix clan, the absolute pinnacle of bloodline power in this world. Under the infusion of this essence, Mei Gongxi's own blood essence began to transform. It was only because her body had endured the baptism of the unprecedented 6 directions 8 desolations golden fiend tribulation that she could withstand such an immense impact from the blood essence. The reason the Undying Demon Emperor had examined her body earlier was to determine how much bloodline power he would need to help her awaken. Since Mei Gongxi's body could endure so much, he spared no effort, using nearly a third of his blood essence to assist her in this awakening. This was undoubtedly a tremendous benefit to Mei Gongxi. As she awakened her phoenix bloodline, she awakened the quintessential immortal flame at the same time. In other words, she immediately came to possess the Phoenix Nirvana ability. Ordinary members of the Immortal Flame Phoenix clan required many years of cultivation and a certain level of bloodline power to acquire this ability. By contrast, Mei Gongxi had acquired it effortlessly within seconds. Immediately after birth, Mei Gongxi's Phoenix bloodline had been stripped away entirely by the Peacock Great Demon King, but that was not the case with her bone marrow. Practically, her bloodline origin was still there, although dry and dormant. Now, under the guidance of the Undying Demon Emperor, it had not only been awakened, but also completely transformed. The White Tiger Demon Emperor had been using his divine consciousness to monitor Mei Gongxi's condition, ensuring his granddaughter's safety. As he sensed her state, his expression began to change. "You bastard, you sure are going all out." He truly was sparing no effort in helping Mei Gongxi awaken her Phoenix bloodline, and it wasn't just a simple awakening. The revived Phoenix bloodline, assisted by the Undying Demon Emperor's power, was continuously evolving and strengthening, beginning to dominate Mei Gongxi's bloodline power. Indeed, in the case of multiple bloodlines, there were always primary and secondary ones, stronger and weaker ones. One would always hold the dominant position. Among Mei Gongxi's two previous bloodlines, the dominant one was naturally the Peacock Demon bloodline. This was something the White Tiger Demon Emperor felt helpless about, as she had spent her childhood cultivating the Peacock transformation, along with undergoing the trial at the ancestral grounds of the Peacock Demon clan. It was inevitable for the Peacock Demon bloodline to be the dominant force. The White Tiger Demon Emperor had only recently helped her elevate the White Tiger bloodline, but surpassing the Peacock Demon bloodline was still a challenge, especially since Mei Gongxi had focused on the Peacock transformation during her tribulation. But at this moment, what the Undying Demon Emperor was doing was using his own blood essence to influence Mei Gongxi's bloodline, elevating the power of the Immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline to the most central position within her. The Immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline was one of the most elite among first-tier bloodlines, superior to both the Peacock Demon and White Tiger bloodlines. Coupled with the fact that an emperor was willing to sacrifice his own blood essence for this, it was only natural for it to take the first place. It was clear that the Undying Demon Emperor was doing this to further solidify Mei Gongxi's ties to the Phoenix race in the future. In reality, the Undying Demon Emperor had made this decision on the spot after sensing Mei Gongxi's physical strength. Her body's resilience far exceeded his expectations, and her talent was extraordinary. This sparked the idea in him to pass on his legacy to her. Other bloodlines? No problem. I will take the primary position, and in the future, as she experiences the benefits of the Immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline, the others can just bow in front of it. Such was the Undying Demon Emperor's decisiveness. To be the Phoenix Lord was to do one's best to further the power of the Phoenix race, and if that involved sacrificing some essence blood, then he would pay that price and thank the heavens it was only that much. After all, there was no way for him to progress further in cultivation. He had already reached his peak. Using his blood essence impacted his combat strength temporarily, and required a long recovery time. But the Immortal Flame Phoenix lineage was best known for its ability to recover, so he did not mind these drawbacks. At the same time, if he could gain a near-certain Emperor-level successor, it was absolutely worth it. Furthermore, Mei Gongxi was the leader of the Peacock Demon clan. What did this mean? It meant that she could potentially unify the skies in the future. All flying demon clans would be under her rule, resolving the long-standing conflict between the Phoenix race and the Peacock Demon clan. There would be no more disputes over the title of King of all birds. In the future, there would only be all birds flocking to the Phoenix. Therefore, after careful consideration, the Undying Demon Emperor felt that this was the most worthwhile approach. He decisively threw in his lot with Mei Gongxi. Gradually, all of Mei Gongxi's bone marrow turned pink, and even her Peacock Demon and White Tiger bloodlines were becoming increasingly refined under the power of the Immortal Flame. Her cultivation directly advanced to the mid-stage of the Great Demon King level. An emperor had spared no expense in using his blood essence to elevate her, and it was the peak bloodline of the same race. This almost amounted to receiving a direct infusion of power. When the last bit of bloodline transformation was complete, the pink phoenix that had merged into Mei Gongxi's body visibly dimmed. It ascended along her spine, intending to return to the embrace of its original owner. To help Mei Gongxi complete her phoenix bloodline awakening, the undying demon emperor had expended nearly a tenth of his blood essence. This was a tenth of a top-tier emperor's blood essence. Even just 1% of it was stronger than all the blood essence of a great demon king, and 10 times that was used solely to help Mei Gongxi. The effort was immense, but it was worth it. The immortal flame phoenix bloodline was now the most powerful within Mei Gongxi's body. Just as Tang San's bloodline imprints occupied the top spot in his dantian one after the other, the immortal flame phoenix bloodline was now firmly in the lead. Even if Mei Gongxi didn't know how to wield its power just yet, the pink phoenix quickly ascended along her spine, flying up the back of Mei Gongxi's head. But just as it was about to detach from her and return to its owner, a sudden change occurred. A crisp metallic sound suddenly rang out, causing the divine consciousness of the 3 emperors present to buzz. A red glow suddenly flared at the center of Mei Gongxi's forehead. In an instant, the area around Mei Gongxi was engulfed in a dark red hue. Both the pink phoenix in the air and the one about to leave her body froze momentarily. Immediately after, an earth-shattering sword intent burst out from within her. Caught off guard, the undying demon emperor let out a muffled grunt and instantly pulled back the pink phoenix hovering in the air. However, the pink phoenix that was about to leave Mei Gongxi's body shattered under the immense sword intent. It turned into a pink halo that merged into Mei Gongxi's body, enveloping her delicate figure in a pink glow. "Damn it!" the undying demon emperor roared in anger, his eyes suddenly spewing golden red light. "It's the artifact protecting its master. The artifact is protecting its master." The white tiger demon emperor's shocked voice rang out, and at the same moment he instantly moved to stand in front of Mei Gongxi. The crystal phoenix demon emperor was even faster, stepping in front of Mei Gongxi a split second before him. "Phoenix Lord, please show mercy." The golden red light radiating from the undying demon emperor's body abruptly dimmed. His face turned somewhat ashen, and his aura weakened significantly. He even began to tremble slightly. Meanwhile, Mei Gongxi's skin sparkled with a pink crystalline glow, and countless lights and shadows flickered around her, resembling tiny phoenixes that emitted melodious phoenix cries. Phoenix harmony. She can manifest phoenix harmony. This was a sign that her bloodline had reached an incredible level of purity. It was a manifestation similar to the Phoenix Golden Mark, but of an even higher level. It was a joyous moment for Mei Gongxi. By contrast, however, the undying demon emperor's expression was extremely grim. He had spared no cost in helping Mei Gongxi awaken her Phoenix bloodline, expending as much as 1/10 of his own blood essence. Such a significant amount of blood essence was bound to take no less than 3 years to recover. Yet just as he was about to reclaim the remaining 2/10 that were still in her body, the connection between him and the pink blood essence phoenix was severed by a single sword strike. Mei Gongxi had then absorbed the other 2/10 of his blood essence. Although she couldn't digest it immediately, it instantly fused with her own blood essence and was sealed within her body. Unless she was killed on the spot, it was irretrievable. In other words, Mei Gongxi had absorbed a full 30% of the undying demon emperor's blood essence. This massive loss was something that no amount of cultivation or resources could restore. It would even affect the undying demon emperor's lifespan. For emperors like him, longevity was the most precious thing. In other words, the undying demon emperor had suffered a massive loss. Instinctively, he'd nearly moved to kill Mei Gongxi to reclaim his essence. Nothing was more important than his own life. Sadly for him, with 30% of his blood essence plundered by Mei Gongxi, his power had significantly dropped for the time being, and with 2 other emperors standing in his way, there was no way he could reclaim it. This was truly a case of losing the net while pulling in the fish. Moreover, the white tiger demon emperor wasn't wrong. His bloodline power was foreign, and Mei Gongxi's lifebound artifact was bound to resist it. In fact, he had been forced to use his formidable divine consciousness to suppress it once already, so he was well aware of that. He just hadn't expected the artifact to be so powerful, and to take action at the most critical moment. The timing of the strike was too perfect. Meanwhile, Mei Gongzi was clearly not conscious and was still immersed in the awakening process, so it was impossible that she had done it intentionally. This was what frustrated the undying demon emperor the most. She hadn't done it on purpose. It was the artifact protecting its master on its own. Phoenix Lord, this. The crystal phoenix demon emperor spread his arms, blocking the undying demon emperor, his face twisted with distress. Please don't be angry. How about I extract some of my blood essence to replenish yours? I'm still young, it's no big deal. Nonsense. Extract your blood essence? Are you out of your mind? Not only would it waste a huge amount of it, but you'd also immediately lose your emperor cultivation. Do you think you're some amazing shit? You think you can replenish my power? Roared the undying demon emperor. The crystal phoenix demon emperor said with a pained expression. Then what should we do? The undying demon emperor almost spat out blood. He felt utterly helpless and infuriated, unable to express his misery. Indeed, there was nothing he could do. The white tiger demon emperor didn't know what to say either. As an emperor himself, he fully understood the severity of having 30% of one's blood essence severed. Moreover, the undying demon emperor was not young. Although he wasn't in the dire situation that the crystal demon emperor had been in, he was well past 1,000 years of age, a time when one's vitality was most cherished. The undying demon emperor's face was dark with regret. He had never imagined that Mei Gongzi's life-bound artifact would be so domineering, capable of breaking free from his divine consciousness suppression and severing his essence with a sword. Kill her and take it back? With these two standing in his way, how could he do that? And even if he could, would he actually do that? But in truth, this loss was simply too great. Even though immortal flame phoenixes were the absolute best at recovery, what would it take to restore such a large amount of blood essence? Could it even be restored? He didn't know. After all, to the best of his knowledge, no immortal flame phoenix had ever done this before. At that moment, the harmonious phoenix cries grew even louder and brighter. Countless light and shadow phoenixes began to gather behind Mei Gongzi, forming a pair of massive phoenix wings that spread out behind her, making her stunning figure appear even more regal. Mei Gongzi's aura had completely stabilized at the middle stage of the Great Demon King level, and her overall strength was bound to soar in no time. A faint phoenix feather shimmered on her forehead, identical to the one that had appeared on the undying demon emperor's forehead earlier. At that moment, a strange halo radiated from beneath her, displaying 7 colors. Not the usual rainbow colors, but gold, silver, red, white, blue, black, and pink. They were radiant, dazzling, and altogether extraordinary. The white tiger demon emperor's pupils constricted. A new domain? No, this is... Meanwhile, the crystal phoenix demon emperor and the undying demon emperor both widened their eyes. Their divine consciousness was telling them something completely unbelievable. It's not a domain, her bloodline is evolving, the undying demon emperor exclaimed. He had completely forgotten his earlier rage, a testament to the sheer level of shock he was experiencing. Bloodline evolution was certainly a good thing, but it depended on which bloodline evolved and to what extent. Sometimes, too much of a good thing can become a curse instead. For lower-tier bloodlines, any evolution was a great blessing, but that was not the case for first-tier bloodlines. If a first-tier bloodline evolved to a sufficient degree, it would become a transcendent bloodline. But transcendent bloodlines were not tolerated by heaven and earth. They immediately attracted backlash from the plane, exactly what Tang San had encountered when he had produced his 2 transcendent bloodlines. So at this moment, when the emperor suddenly realized that Mei Gongzi's bloodline was about to evolve, how could they not be shocked? The only one relatively calm was the white tiger demon emperor, as he had already seen a perfected transcendent bloodline in Tang San and personally experienced the terrifying nature of such a bloodline. But it was clear to him that this could not be allowed to happen now, especially within the ancestral court. Once this evolution occurred, it would trigger extraordinary phenomena that even emperors could not fully stop. After all, they were not capable of fighting against the plane itself. Without a moment's hesitation, the undying demon emperor disregarded his weakened blood essence. Releasing the blazing aura of the immortal flame phoenix, and his powerful divine consciousness to suppress Mei Gongzi. The only solution was to seal her bloodline power to prevent its evolution. Otherwise, if nothing else, Mei Gongzi's possession of the immortal flame phoenix bloodline would be exposed. Would the ancestral court allow her to go through with this evolution? And in the unlikely case that they did, could she even withstand the tribulation? These were all serious concerns. The intense bloodline power of the undying demon emperor blocked the seven-colored radiance, isolating everything from the outside world, while also suppressing the bloodline fluctuations within Mei Gongzi. Having just helped her complete her awakening, the undying demon emperor was perfectly familiar with Mei Gongzi's physical condition. He used his divine consciousness to forcibly sever the interaction between her peacock demon and immortal flame phoenix bloodlines, keeping them separate. Indeed, he could tell that they'd been about to fuse, and it was their fusion that triggered the evolution. The crystal phoenix demon emperor watched anxiously from the side. His cultivation was not as profound as the undying demon emperor's, and he wasn't familiar enough with Mei Gongzi's condition. He could only stand guard with the white tiger demon emperor, releasing their auras to isolate the area from the outside world completely. It took a full quarter of an hour for the seven-colored glow around Mei Gongzi to fade, along with the newly awakened aura of her phoenix bloodline. The undying demon emperor finally allowed a trace of exhaustion to show on his face, as he retracted his divine consciousness and bloodline power. At this moment, his eyes no longer held anger but were filled with complex and peculiar emotions. Sky Sovereign. She can become the true Sky Sovereign. What was the Sky Sovereign? The Peacock Demon clan and the Phoenix race had always fought for the title of King of all birds, but they were both aware that there was a way to decide the absolute winner, having their bloodline evolve into a theoretical transcendent bloodline. They had named this bloodline Sky Sovereign, the ruler of the skies. If one truly came to possess such a bloodline, the entire sky would be their domain. All flying races, whether they were demons or nymphs, would only be able to bow before them and become their vassals. Naturally, nobody had ever managed that. Even if they knew it was possible, they were also well aware that the plane did not abide in existence beyond an emperor. Thus, the undying demon emperor could never have expected that something he had pursued his entire life would manifest so naturally and effortlessly in Mei Gongzi, much less that it would be triggered by his own bloodline fusing with the peacock demon bloodline. This realization showed him that the phoenix and peacock should not be in conflict but rather complement each other. All this time, the Phoenix race and the Peacock Demon clan had been on the wrong path. This discovery profoundly impacted the undying demon emperor. The emotions in his eyes grew increasingly complex. The millennia of fighting for power turned out to be a joke. The Peacock Demon clan, which they'd struggled to suppress all this time, should have been not an enemy but an ally. From the seamless fusion of Mei Gongzi's two bloodlines, it was clear that if the Phoenix race and the Peacock clan worked together, their combat power would increase exponentially. When the Peacock Demon Emperor appeared a long time ago, she and the Undying Demon Emperor were instantly at each other's throats. To his dismay, he was unable to do anything against that being who could peer into the future. But looking back now, what would have happened if they had joined forces instead? Maybe they could have even won against the Crystal Demon Emperor. For a moment, countless chaotic thoughts flooded the Undying Demon Emperor's mind, leaving his emotions a complicated mess. With her bloodline evolution suppressed, Mei Gongzi's aura gradually stabilized. The immortal flame phoenix bloodline was locked by the Undying Demon Emperor's power, and the White Tiger Demon Emperor also used his own power to make sure the White Tiger bloodline would not accidentally influence the other two, and cause them to merge. When Mei Gongzi slowly opened her eyes, the gazes of the three emperors simultaneously fell upon her. She was not even 20 yet, and she was a mid-stage great demon king with 3 first-tier bloodlines, a clan leader, and a city lord. Truly a favored child of the heavens and a future emperor. A rare satisfied smile bloomed on the White Tiger Demon Emperor's face. While not as knowledgeable in terms of avian demon bloodlines, he had sensed the bloodline evolution just as clearly as the Undying Demon Emperor. His granddaughter was truly blessed. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor also heaved a deep, relieved sigh. From now on, the conflict between the Phoenix race and the Peacock Demon clan was bound to disappear. The animosity would finally be resolved. Mei Gongzi first glanced at the White Tiger Demon Emperor, then turned her gaze to the undying demon emperor. Her initially confused eyes gradually cleared, and she transitioned from sitting to kneeling on the spot, bowing respectfully to the undying demon emperor. The undying demon emperor was momentarily stunned, and then he heard Mei Gongzi say in a respectful tone, "Thank you, grandfather." Grandfather? The undying demon emperor was taken aback, and the white tiger demon emperor was equally surprised. Mei Gongzi continued, "You passed your blood essence to me, so I am in a way your direct descendant. But you and my maternal grandfather are of the same generation, so I can only call you my grandfather." With these words, the atmosphere in the room instantly shifted. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor's face was full of envy. He had no objections, of course. The Undying Demon Emperor's seniority was much higher than his own, so it made sense that she didn't call the man father. But this was his daughter, and she hadn't acknowledged him as such. Instead, she'd acknowledged the Undying Demon Emperor as a grandfather. The White Tiger Demon Emperor felt a bit jealous. How had his granddaughter come to recognize another grandfather? Still, he had neither the right nor the intention to protest. After all, the Undying Demon Emperor had sacrificed 30% of his blood essence. That was no small sacrifice. The Undying Demon Emperor felt an even stronger wave of conflicting emotions. But as he looked at the respectful-looking young woman before him, an unexpected warmth filled his heart. It was an undeniable fact that it was difficult for phoenixes to produce offspring, and this held especially true for the most powerful of their kind. He had been a prodigy from a young age, standing out among his clan and advancing rapidly in cultivation. However, he had never been able to have one single descendant. He had raised and nurtured a number of youths, a good example being Ji Guanlin, but even though he had officially adopted them and he very much considered them his descendants, none of them were actually his own one. Now, listening to Mei Gongzi's words, he suddenly thought, you know what, I might as well. This girl had inherited 30% of his bloodline essence, so what difference was there between her and a biological descendant? Acknowledging her and gaining a direct granddaughter didn't seem such a bad idea. With that, the Undying Demon Emperor completely forgot his previous anger. He stood up and gently helped Mei Gongzi up from the ground. Good child. Stand up. Our phoenix race doesn't like such formalities. The exhaustion on the Undying Demon Emperor's face seemed to fade slightly, as he sensed the immortal flame phoenix bloodline within Mei Gongzi, an exact match to his own. The connection between their shared bloodline made him increasingly fond of the young girl before him. The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor nearly rolled his eyes. What do you mean the phoenix race doesn't like formalities? Who the fuck are you trying to trick? You're the one who always demands absolute decorum, and you're the one who disciplines anyone in our race who dares to show you even the slightest hint of disrespect. You even kicked your own adopted daughter out of your clan. This is blatant favoritism. Thank you, grandfather, for bestowing your bloodline upon me, Mei Gongzi said softly. She had just awakened from her transformation, so how could she think of acknowledging the Undying Demon Emperor as her grandfather so quickly? In the Undying Demon Emperor's eyes, this was a good child's heartfelt gratitude toward him. But in truth, within Mei Gongzi's mind, someone's divine consciousness was whispering advice. Although Tang San was not present, through his connection with the Azura Godsword, he had been monitoring Mei Gongzi's physical changes. If anything went wrong, he was ready to step in and assist. It was proven that merging with the Phoenix bloodline, especially the immortal flame Phoenix one, would bring immense benefits to Mei Gongzi, beyond Nirvana rebirth significantly enhancing her ability to survive in dire circumstances. The compatibility between the Phoenix and Peacock bloodlines was also a crucial factor. How was it proven? Simple. Tang San himself possessed both the immortal flame Phoenix and the Peacock demon bloodlines, so he knew better than anyone what would happen if they came into contact. Naturally, he didn't dare to merge these two bloodlines now. He already had two transcendent bloodlines, and merging another wasn't an issue of physical endurance, but rather fear that the planar laws would rage once more. He would have to wait until he became an emperor, when even the planar ruler wouldn't be able to suppress him anymore. Why did the Azura God Sword sever the Undying Demon Emperor's essence? It wasn't actually the artifact protecting its master. That was a known phenomenon, but it could only happen if there was an actual threat to its owner. The Undying Demon Emperor was helping Mei Gongzi at that time, and the Azura sword was not stupid enough to fail to recognize that. Obviously, it was Tang San who had triggered it, using the sword intent to sever the connection between the Undying Demon Emperor and his blood essence, then swiftly guiding that blood essence to merge with Mei Gongzi. However, due to the excessive amount of blood essence in Tang San controlling the Azura God sword from afar, he couldn't control it perfectly. This was what had led to the unintended fusion of Mei Gongzi's bloodlines. But this initial fusion didn't alarm Tang San. He trusted that the Emperor's present would make the right judgment. Sure enough, under the suppression of the Undying Demon Emperor, the fusion of the bloodlines was halted, and no transcendent bloodline emerged. This transcendent bloodline would inevitably happen at some point, but now was not the right time. They would address it later. There would be plenty of opportunities out on the sea. In other words, Tang San had played the Undying Demon Emperor like a fiddle, and the latter was even grateful for it. Since Tang San had some good cards in hand, why would he not rope the most powerful Demon Emperor onto their side? And what better way to do so than through blood ties? Tang San had long known from the White Tiger Demon Emperor that the Undying Demon Emperor had no biological offspring. He had informed Mei Gongzi of this earlier, and told her what to do as soon as she woke up. With the support of the Undying Demon Emperor, the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor would find it much harder to target Kali City in the future. This would buy Tang San, Mei Gongzi, and their allies more time until they were truly ready to spread their wings. Mei Gongzi had no objections to Tang San's guidance. She was acutely aware of the changes in her body following the integration of the immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline. She had undergone yet another transformation. It truly felt like the rebirth of a phoenix, granting her immense benefits. The Undying Demon Emperor, in the meantime, was completely unaware of what was going on in the background. He spoke gently. "You don't need to thank me for anything. You were always a part of our phoenix race, and it's only natural for you to come back home. Our clan needs outstanding children like you. Anyway, you must have felt it during the awakening process. So there are a few things I need to remind you of." "Yes, grandfather," Mei Gongzi responded respectfully. The Undying Demon Emperor said solemnly, "First, and most importantly, during your daily cultivation and attempts to use your various bloodlines, you must maintain a distance between the immortal Flame Phoenix bloodline and the Peacock Demon bloodline. Ideally, use the White Tiger one to separate them. Do not let these two come into contact. They will fuse, and this fusion will trigger a tribulation that you won't be able to withstand. When you become an emperor, I will personally safeguard you to see if you can truly create this transcendent bloodline. If you are successful, you will become the first emperor with a transcendent bloodline in the history of the ancestral court. However, the risks will be substantial, and we will need to assess whether to attempt this when the time comes. Second, you must keep your Phoenix bloodline strictly confidential. This is to avoid causing any turmoil within the Peacock Demon clan. After all, knowing our relationship, this could lead to them rejecting you as their leader. You've only just succeeded in your appointment, and your position in Kali City is not yet fully secure. Focus on solidifying your standing first. There's no need to rush into cultivating our bloodline. Also, even more importantly, this is to avoid having problems with the ancestral court. You are already exceptional, and if they learn that you possess a third bloodline, along with your human heritage, it could bring unnecessary trouble. That's something none of us here wants to see." Mei Gongzi nodded repeatedly. "When you return, manage Kali City well and focus on your cultivation. You must strive to reach the emperor level as soon as possible, but striving and rushing are not the same thing, and you do well not to forget that. Accumulation is vital for becoming an emperor. Although you've advanced quickly, you still lack the deep experience that true emperors have. This deficiency will limit your future growth if not addressed. But if it is addressed, then with your 3 bloodlines, you are destined to become a very powerful emperor in the future. Maybe the most powerful." The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor felt helpless when he heard that. Is he talking about my lack of foundation? He was starting to regret bringing the Undying Demon Emperor here. He wondered if Mei Gongzi would have acknowledged him as her father if he had been the one to use his blood essence to help her awaken the Phoenix bloodline. At this point, the Undying Demon Emperor had finished advising Mei Gongzi. He threw a glance at Lin Shima, who was simmering in anxiety behind him, then looked at her again. There's one other thing. Shima made some foolish choices back then, but it wasn't because he didn't love your mother. It was for the sake of his race. As the clan leader, he had the duty to ensure the Crystal Phoenix lineage could have an emperor. So don't hate him. After all, he is your biological father. And without him, you wouldn't be in this world. Mei Gongzi turned to look at Lin Shima. As their eyes met, she quickly averted her gaze and said, "If my mother forgives you, then I will too." Her feelings toward Lin Shima were complex. She had once hated him deeply because he had oppressed the Peacock Demon clan, even causing the death of the Peacock Great Demon King. But now the Peacock Great Demon King had been resurrected, and she knew that Lin Shima had been completely unaware of her existence. So did she really hate him? Deep down, Mei Gongzi was on the edge, but she had to consider her mother's feelings. If her mother refused to accept it, she couldn't acknowledge him as her father. Yes, I will do my best to earn your mother's forgiveness. She's still in Kali City, right? Lin Shima said, feeling quite anxious. Mei Gongzi replied, "My mother might come here later to show her respect to grandfather." Su Qin is coming to the ancestral court? The Crystal Phoenix Demon Emperor's eyes lit up, and he turned to look at the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor snorted coldly and ignored him. The Undying Demon Emperor said, "We'll talk about it then. Little Mei, I need to return now. My blood essence consumption was quite significant, and I need to retreat for some time. Due to your bloodline awakening today, I've realized that the Phoenix and Peacock Demon bloodlines are highly compatible. Our clans should not be enemies. Instead, we should seek more communication and reduce the rift between us." I felt that too.
Mei Gongzi nodded.
She had nearly fused them into a transcendent bloodline, so she was clearly aware of the synergy. Although it was impossible for the Phoenix race and the Peacock Demon clan to produce someone like her with both bloodlines, if a Peacock and a Phoenix worked together in battle, their bloodline powers would complement each other, resulting in even greater strength, much like the yin-yang synergy between scorching sunflowers and netherman flowers. I'll need to study this further when I return. You are always welcome to bring the Peacock Demon clan to Phoenix City for some cultural exchange, the Undying Demon Emperor said with a smile. Old Tiger, I'll take my leave first. The Undying Demon Emperor was eager to return and stabilize his blood essence. The Phoenix race had countless heavenly treasures, and he needed to use them as soon as possible to replenish his earlier consumption. Lin Shima looked at his daughter reluctantly. Mei Gongzi merely bowed slightly, showing no intention of closeness. But for him this was already enough. At least his daughter wasn't rejecting him, and she had awakened the Phoenix bloodline. Everything else could wait until he won back his lover. After the two departed, the White Tiger Demon Emperor, still feeling a bit jealous, said, "Why did you recognize him as your grandfather?" Mei Gongzi's expression turned slightly odd. "Tang-san told me to do it. You can take it up with him." The White Tiger Demon Emperor was stunned, but in the next moment, Tang-san stepped into the room with a flash of silver, chuckling. "Why did you sell me out so quickly? Having him as your grandfather is definitely a good deal. When you become an emperor in the future, you won't be able to change the fact that you're human, nor can you erase your human bloodline. This will inevitably lead to significant resistance. And where does the resistance in the ancestral court come from? The emperors. The more emperors support you, the higher your chances of success. The Undying Demon Emperor is the strongest in terms of actual combat among the demon emperors, and with his backing, your chance of success will increase significantly. Besides, you do have his bloodline, no?" The White Tiger Demon Emperor nodded and said, "He's right. The Empyrean Dominion has 8 demon emperors left, and the 3 of us are certainly on your side. If we can win over 1 or 2 more, Celestial Fox won't be able to do much against you. However, the Emperor trials also involve the Solstice Empire, so we'll need to gain the support of some nymph emperors as well. It's not just up to us. Unfortunately, now that our side's top emperor has fallen, the balance of power between the 2 sides is equal, unlike before when we could completely suppress nymphs. So the nymph emperor's likelihood of supporting your ascension is very low, as having another talented emperor like you would impact them significantly. This is a highly complex situation," Mei Gongzi said. "Whatever happens, it's still far off. You all talk as if I'm about to become an emperor any moment now. Whatever the future holds, Tang San will be there to plan it out for me. The White Tiger Demon Emperor chuckled. You have more faith in him than in yourself. Mei Gongzi shrugged, looking as if that was only natural. The White Tiger Demon Emperor said, when the time comes, I'll be interested to see what Tang San prepares for you. Tang San smiled without saying a word. In recent days, aside from cultivating, he had been actually constantly thinking about the future of humanity. When it came to himself and Mei Gongzi, he was filled with confidence. For him, the most challenging step had been his divine tribulation, which was a direct collision with the plane itself. With that hurdle now overcome, everything else was much easier. Moreover, he could now access his divine seat once more. Though he was not yet the God King he once was, he was nevertheless a weaker version of the sea god. In this plane, no one but him truly understood the significance of a divine seat, nor had any idea how to wield one even if they had it. Mei Gongzi said, Grandfather, the 100-day deadline is almost up. When I return, I'll ask Mother to come and visit you. The White Tiger Demon Emperor nodded slowly, letting out a sigh. All right. Tang San asked, Your Majesty, do you know the current situation with the Celestial Fox Demon Emperor? The White Tiger Demon Emperor shook his head and said, Ever since he returned from Kali City, he's been in seclusion and hasn't come out. The Celestial Fox Sacred Mountain has also been closed off to climbers. That incident had a massive impact on the entire Celestial Fox clan, and he needs significant time to handle it. Are you worried you'll be obstructed when you return? Don't worry, that's unlikely. You'll teleport out so he won't be able to catch you, and he can't do anything here because I and those two will protect you. Celestial Fox won't dare to act against you openly. Tang San nodded and said, Before I leave, I plan to visit the Sword Saint Demon Emperor. You're trying to win him over? Sword Saint is indeed an anomaly. He devotes all his energy to studying his sword. Apart from that, he won't even bother managing his own clan. Hell, he's even sold his ancestral divine sword before, if you remember. From his previous actions, it's clear he has some goodwill toward you, but don't place too much hope in him. The reason he helped you was that you returned his divine sword. He's a person devoid of emotion, and among the emperors, his strength is one of the very few I can't fully gauge. Although he ranks lower, don't underestimate him. Tang San nodded slightly and said, I understand. The reason the Sword Saint Demon Emperor doesn't divert his energy to external matters is that he's always nurturing his sword. The sword in his heart, or you could say, the sword in his divine consciousness. He constantly maintains a unified state of body, bloodline, and spirit, and all that power is devoted to nurturing his sword intent. Once his sword intent erupts, it will surely be a force that shakes heaven and earth. How could I underestimate such an emperor? But he is a very pure character. Once he's moved, his support won't be swayed by any other factors. The White Tiger Demon Emperor nodded in approval. It seems you understand him well. Go ahead then. But be careful not to reveal your transcendent bloodline. There's no telling what might happen otherwise. The reason Tang San wanted to meet the Sword Saint Demon Emperor before leaving was to fulfill a previous promise. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor had cast his vote for Mei Gongzi because Tang San had promised to show him what true judgment sword intent looked like. A promise made must be fulfilled. Integrity is the foundation for future cooperation. Tang San and Mei Gongzi, hand in hand and both wearing hooded cloaks, arrived at the foot of the Sword Saint Sacred Mountain. Their auras were concealed by Tang San's discerning eye of heaven. With his power, even emperors wouldn't be able to tell who they were unless they directly engaged them. Tang San took out the Sword Saint token he had gotten, which allowed them to pass by the guards unimpeded and climb the stairs undisturbed all the way to the palace. The Sword Saint Palace was still as simple and austere as ever, and the piercing sword intent remained as sharp as before. Tang San released a wisp of his aura, sending it into the palace. Moments later, the grand doors of the Sword Saint Palace slowly opened, and a cold voice from within said, Enter. Tang San led Mei Gongzi into the Sword Saint Palace. The interior was serene, though not as quiet as the White Tiger Palace. The red-crowned cranes within moved about silently, barely making any noise, as if they didn't even notice the two visitors. Tang San and Mei Gongzi climbed upward until they reached the topmost level of the Sword Saint Palace. The ancient doors were open. The two of them stepped inside together. With a creaking sound, the doors automatically closed behind them, causing the hall to dim slightly. In the next moment, they saw a sudden flash before their eyes as a figure radiating an incomparably sharp aura appeared not far in front of them. It was none other than the Sword Saint Demon Emperor. Tang San and Mei Gongzi bowed slightly. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The Sword Saint Demon Emperor nodded and said, "You're alive, as expected." His gaze locked onto Tang San. In an instant, an incredibly sharp aura pressed directly upon Tang San. Tang San did not retreat. Instead, he stepped forward, positioning himself in front of Mei Gongzi. A faint golden glow erupted from his body, not the golden armor transformation but the aura of the sea god. With the support of his divine seat, he forcefully resisted the pressure from the Sword Saint Demon Emperor, not retreating a single step in the face of that sharp aura. Mei Gongzi moved behind him, placing her hands on his back and channeling her bloodline power into Tang San through the peacock transformation. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor spoke up again. "Was the ancestral court's tribulation related to you?" Tang San replied calmly, "Yes. I faced the tribulation together with the Crystal Demon Emperor." Before that incident, Tang San had met with the Sword Saint Demon Emperor and secured his support for Mei Gongzi. No emperor was a fool, and even this one, who dedicated all his focus to his sword, was no exception. Tang San naturally expected him to have guessed some of the truth, and the fact that Tang San was now standing here alive confirmed it. How could it not raise suspicion? The Sword Saint Demon Emperor said solemnly, "So it was really Crystal?" The Crystal Demon Emperor was involved, yes. "And she is no longer among us." The Sword Saint Demon Emperor sighed, and the pressure on Tang San vanished. Only she could achieve such things. This was a struggle against fate. Even emperors are not exempt. Unfortunately, she did not succeed. Tang San said nothing more, remaining silent. He understood that the Sword Saint Demon Emperor had likely believed him. After all, even if he said that the tribulation was entirely his doing, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor probably wouldn't believe it. He was not technically lying either. The tribulation was indeed related to the Crystal Demon Emperor. Crystalline was a part of his body, and the Crystal Demon Emperor's support was an essential trump card. He had merely guided the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's deductions in the right direction. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor snapped out of his thoughts. "Anyway, are you here to fulfill your promise?" Tang San nodded exactly. "A promise is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. I'd like to combine our strengths to demonstrate that judgment sword intent for you. And while we are at it, we would like to ask for your guidance." The Sword Saint Demon Emperor nodded slightly, a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. He had already been impressed by Mei Gongzi during her evaluation. This young girl had managed to defeat a great demon king of the immortal Flame Phoenix clan while still at the demon king level, and she had later become a great demon king herself. She was a true prodigy. And now, Tang San had clearly broken through to the 10th order as well. Having sparred with Tang San before, he understood that this young man could not be treated as an ordinary individual. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor nodded toward Tang San. "Good. Then let's begin." Tang San frowned slightly. "Here." The Sword Saint Demon Emperor understood Tang San's meaning from his gaze. After a moment of thought, he said, "Here is fine." As he spoke, he raised his right hand, and in an instant, his aura soared, rising like a towering mountain. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor still looked like himself objectively speaking, but to Tang San and Mei Gongzi, it felt as if a great mountain shaped like a sword had appeared before them. Everything around them seemed to vanish. It was as if they were standing in a desolate wilderness, with only the imposing sword mountain before them. "Very well then. Let us begin, Your Majesty." As he spoke, Tang San slowly closed his eyes, and behind him, Mei Gongzi did the same. In the next moment, their auras seemed to merge into one. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor's gaze burned as he watched them. In his perception, both Mei Gongzi and Tang San were undergoing transformations. Tang San stood there straight as a blade, his aura unchanged in quality but far more intense. Boundless majesty erupted from him as vast energy converged toward him from all directions. This energy was unlike anything the Sword Saint Demon Emperor had ever encountered. Vast, grand, overwhelmingly pure, and aligned with Yang. As this energy gathered, the majesty emanating from Tang San grew ever stronger, as if he were connected to the heavens and earth. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor even felt that Tang San was taller and more imposing than his own Sword Mountain. At this moment, Tang San appeared to connect the heavens and the earth, his entire being suffused with an extraordinarily unique aura that the Sword Saint Demon Emperor had never experienced before. This aura pervaded everything around him. Though he was nothing but a newly ascended demon king, his aura was elevating rapidly under the influence of this energy, seemingly surpassing the boundaries of normal power and continuing to rise. Why is this happening? What's going on with him? What kind of transformation is he undergoing? The Sword Saint Demon Emperor's eyes shone brightly. It was precisely because he had never seen something like it that his interest was piqued. In this world, very few things could intrigue him anymore. But at this moment, Tang San had truly captured his fascination. Is this the power of judgment? Tang San reached behind himself at that moment, and a heaven-shaking sword intent erupted. As that sword intent appeared, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor could no longer sense Mei Gongxi's presence. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Behind Tang San, a red light shot into the sky, and the unique energy he had gathered surged toward that crimson glow like rivers pouring into the sea. A blood-red light shone on Tang San's forehead, forming a small crimson sword rune. This red did not carry the hues of grief, bleakness, or bloodshed. Instead, it exuded a vast, majestic aura. Tang San's right hand slowly moved upward, as if unsheathing a sword tied to his back, and the heaven-shaking crimson light behind him condensed toward his palm. In the next moment, a crimson beam flashed that appeared to connect heaven and earth. As this sword strike was launched, it seemed to draw in a unique and terrifying force. That terrifying force descended in an instant, slashing down upon the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's spiritual Sword Mountain with the momentum of an entire world collapsing. The Sword Mountain trembled. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor trembled violently, and blinding sword light erupted from him. The towering Sword Mountain rose to meet the strike head-on. The crimson sword light burst forth in indescribable brilliance, instantly enveloping the entire Sword Mountain. Yet, the mountain remained steadfast, seemingly unscathed. It was just that, as the crimson light swept over the Sword Mountain, the sword intent erupting from the mountain shattered instantly. Immediately, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's entire body was shrouded in red. Yet although astonished, he felt no harm, only a strange aura brushing past his body. That was all. Yet the full power sword intent he had just unleashed had vanished without a trace. The crimson light gradually receded, and Tang San's face turned slightly pale. At some point, a blood-red longsword had appeared in his hand. The sword floated away, landing beside him and transforming back into Mei Gongxi. Yes, Tang San had just used Mei Gongxi as the sword to unleash that judgment strike. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor stood in silence for a long time, while the Sword Mountain continued to tremble, emitting a persistent hum. Tang San and Mei Gongxi remained still, quietly sensing the changes within themselves. Especially Mei Gongxi. She could clearly feel that when Tang San had used her as the sword to strike that blow, something seemed to have been imprinted within her. That something made the Azura sword in her sea of consciousness become visibly more solid. After a long while, the light returned to the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's eyes. "This is the Sword of Judgment?" he asked solemnly. "Yes, this is the Sword of Judgment. Do you understand?" The Sword Saint Demon Emperor shook his head. "I understand some, but not fully. You wielded the power of heaven and earth. My sword intent couldn't block your strike. That power seemed impervious to bloodline power and divine consciousness, or at least it could only be partially obstructed. So what exactly did you use to strike me? And why did I not feel any harm?" Tang San smiled faintly and said, "Your Majesty, you are without sin. What is there to judge? You are your own strict judge and you know that you are innocent. The sword of judgment would not strike you down." The Sword Saint Demon Emperor paused, pondering Tang San's words, momentarily stunned. Tang San continued gravely, "The sword of judgment is the sword that strikes down evil. The more heinous an enemy, the more evil they have committed, the more effective this power is against them. Conversely, it's clear that you have committed no great wrongs in your life. Your moral compass is righteous and you follow it unerringly, and thus the strike simply brushed past you. Had you been guilty, the outcome would have been very different. As Tang San explained to the Sword Saint Demon Emperor, Mei Gongzi listened attentively by his side. Before they came, Tang San had told her that he would reveal the true meaning of the Azura Sword and its real power. And now he had done just that. Judgment will fall upon those who are guilty. But then what kind of energy does the Sword of Judgment use? Asked the Sword Saint Demon Emperor. Tang San replied solemnly, the righteous energy of heaven and earth. As he heard these words, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's eyes sparkled brilliantly. At his level, what he needed was no longer arduous cultivation of bloodline power, but a deeper understanding of himself, the world, and the meaning behind his sword. And when Tang San spoke of the righteous energy of heaven and earth, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor felt a sudden moment of enlightenment. In that instant he understood where Tang San's sword intent came from, and why it possessed such formidable power. It was not bloodline power, and neither was it the power of the spirit. Tang San's sword was a conduit for the righteous energy of heaven and earth. The only judgment that was true and unbiased was that of heaven and earth. The Sword of Judgment triggered a baptism of this righteous energy, which judged one's past deeds and cleansed all that was evil. Those without sin would naturally feel nothing, while those who were guilty would suffer according to their crimes. This judgment was unavoidable and could not be stopped, as it came from within as well as from without. Those subject to it could only rely on their own power to endure it. The Sword of Judgment. So this is what it means. It is the symbol of the righteousness of heaven and earth. Mei Gongzi was also reflecting on these words. When one's sins reached the point where heaven and earth could no longer abide them, they would be subject to judgment. The vast righteous energy of heaven and earth was judge, jury, and executioner. The Azura Sword was the embodiment of this energy. That was why it held power even over the true gods ruling over a divine realm. Whether lowly rat or god king, none could escape it. Before it, all trembled in fear. Even though only a trace of the Azura Sword's intent resided within Mei Gongzi, it was more than enough. It could summon the righteous energy of heaven and earth, something as of yet inaccessible to the beings of this plane. I understand. Thank you for the guidance. The light in the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's eyes gradually receded, but he looked more spirited than ever. He gave Tang San a slight bow. With today's enlightenment, his cultivation would surely reach new heights, and his understanding of the sword would advance to another level. Tang San added, Your Majesty, the strongest sword in the world is the sword of the king. The sword of a ruler is a sword that must impart judgment, and for that reason it cannot only be sharp and mighty. The Sword Saint Demon Emperor nodded slightly. I understand what you mean. To pursue the ultimate sword, one must also strive for the ultimate self, perfect, just unblemished in mind and body. The ultimate sword is the flawless sword. Tang San said nothing more, whether to confirm or to refute. Each individual had their own understanding of the divine sword within their heart. What the Sword Saint Demon Emperor had grasped now was the concept of the flawless sword, which was in a way similar to the Azura Sword but not really the same thing. Of course, the fact that he had been able to gain insights from the sword intent of the Azura Sword would undoubtedly make him stronger nevertheless. From this moment on, even if the Sword Saint Demon Emperor ended up not being their ally, he would surely never become their enemy. May you advance even further, Senior. Tang San bowed slightly with Mei Gongzi, then turned and left without hesitation. As he watched them leave, the Sword Saint Demon Emperor's gaze became even clearer. Convey my decree. From today onward, I will enter seclusion. The Sword Saint Mountain is closed. As Tang San and Mei Gongzi descended the mountain, the voice of the Sword Saint Demon Emperor echoed in their ears. It seems that, due to the inspiration he had just had, he was preparing to enter seclusion to strive for a higher level. With this, Tang San and Mei Gongzi had accomplished all they came to do at the ancestral court. It was time for them to leave. He held Mei Gongzi's hand and looked toward the celestial Fox Sacred Mountain, a flash of coldness passing through his eyes. For their future, for humanity, and for this plane, he only had one thing to say. I will become stronger and I will return. The 100 days had finally come to an end. When the time was up, there was no need to report to the ancestral court. Tang San and Mei Gongzi, along with Xiao He, headed straight to the White Tiger Hotel to prepare for their departure. Since the last incident, the situation in the ancestral court had become somewhat delicate. The greatest impact was not from the 9 heavens 10 earths divine extinguishing tribulation. After all, the tribulation had caused minimal damage to the ancestral court, and the only ones affected were the celestial fox clan. The real blow was the fall of the crystal demon emperor. The fall of the foremost emperor of this era heavily impacted the power dynamics of the ancestral court. With the crystal demon emperor's presence, the Empyrean dominion held a clear advantage over the Solstice Empire. In terms of the number and quality of emperors, there was a clear distinction between the two sides. However, with the fall of the crystal demon emperor, while the number of demon emperors was still one more than the nymph emperors, the overall strength had evened out significantly. The celestial fox sacred mountain had suffered severe damage, greatly affecting the celestial fox demon emperor, who had now become the top demon emperor. His strength had been compromised, forcing him to go into seclusion to repair the sacred mountain and stabilize the ancestral court's fortune. Even the daily affairs of the ancestral court had been temporarily handed over to the undying demon emperor. Thus, the gap between the two factions narrowed considerably. If it weren't for the sunborn nymph emperor's lack of interest in managing the ancestral court, there would still be competition over who held the ruling position. Mei Gongzi had acknowledged the undying demon emperor as her grandfather. But due to the impact of his blood essence loss, the undying demon emperor was now in seclusion, so she and Tang San had no one to report to when leaving. Shao He gazed at the massive teleportation array atop the White Tiger Hotel, his eyes gleaming with fascination. He no longer had the space attribute bloodline, but he very much did have the expertise, and he could clearly sense the wondrous spatial fluctuations within. When he looked up at Tang San again, there was something new in his eyes. Mei Gongzi had been taught by the Peacock Great Demon King himself. Before meeting Tang San, everything she knew came from him. Thus, he knew all too well his daughter didn't have the skills to set up such an array, so it was obvious who had arranged it. The White Tiger Demon Emperor personally escorted them to the hotel, looking at Mei Gongzi with a hint of reluctance in his tiger eyes. "Goodbye, grandfather." Mei Gongzi stepped forward and hugged the White Tiger Demon Emperor. The White Tiger Demon Emperor patted her back and said gently, "Improving your strength is important, but so is your safety. Don't rush things. Both of you understand?" "Yes, I understand. Thank you, grandfather." Mei Gongzi's eyes were slightly red. Without the care and protection of the White Tiger Demon Emperor during their time at the ancestral court, things would have gone quite differently. Although everything was within Tang San's plans, it still required the White Tiger Demon Emperor to acknowledge their familial bond genuinely. As they were about to leave, Mei Gongzi looked at the emperor before her, this ruler with world-shaking power who chose to remain alone in the White Tiger Palace, and deeply felt his loneliness. "Grandfather, when I get back, I'll have Mother come visit you as soon as possible. She's been missing you too," Mei Gongzi said softly. The White Tiger Demon Emperor sighed lightly and nodded. "Tell her to come back. I just want her to come back, nothing else." The White Tiger Demon Emperor composed himself and said solemnly, "There's no time to waste. Set off. You have many things to deal with once you return." Tang San stepped into the teleportation array, and the spacetime lighthouse floated out. Instantly, the entire array was illuminated by the power of spacetime, emitting a strange spatial fluctuation. Shao He bowed respectfully to the White Tiger Demon Emperor, and entered the teleportation array alongside Mei Gongzi. After bidding farewell to the White Tiger Demon Emperor once more, Tang San activated the long-distance teleportation. Now that he was a bona fide god, he could directly teleport back to Golden Valley, without having to go through the relay array anymore. Divine consciousness and spatial power enveloped Shao He, and the teleportation began. With a flash of light, the three figures vanished simultaneously from the teleportation array. Though Shao He was once a space element Great Demon King, he no longer possessed his spatial abilities. He felt the world spin around him, everything turning surreal and distorted, but the light around him moved slowly, with no impact on his body. His impression of Tang San was much like that of the White Tiger Demon Emperor. This young man was the source of far too many wonders, each one leaving him in awe. When the light flashed again, they found themselves inside a cave. The glowing teleportation array beneath them illuminated every detail of the cavern. As the distorted light around them dissipated, Tang San put away the spacetime lighthouse, and a rich, Overwhelming life force rushed toward them. Tang San and Mei Gongzi were long accustomed to this, but for Xiao He it was his first time feeling it. His entire body felt as if it were soaking in a hot spring, and this was followed by a sense of lightheadedness caused by the sudden influx of life energy. Where exactly are we? Xiao He was puzzled and couldn't help but turn to look at Mei Gongzi. This is Tang San's place. It's in the Kali mountain range, not far from Kali City, Mei Gongzi explained. Tang San's place, huh? I see you're getting pretty comfortable, Toj. Wait a second. Xiao He's pupils constricted sharply as he suddenly realized something. Did you just say this is in the Kali mountain range?
Mei Gongzi nodded.
Yes, we directly teleported back here, from the ancestral court to the Kali mountains. From here we'll just teleport back to Kali City. This place is very well hidden, so it's perfect for setting up an ultra-long distance teleportation array. Xiao He couldn't hide the shock in his eyes. Although his cultivation was nowhere close to what it used to be, his mindset was still that of the former Peacock Great Demon King. For something to shock him, it had to be of simply colossal magnitude. But this was ultra-long distance teleportation. Teleportation spanning half the continent. Let alone him, even the old Peacock Demon Emperor had never been able to perform such a feat, yet they had done it with an array alone, turning the many-day trip between the ancestral court and Kali City into something done in seconds. Xiao He couldn't help but feel an extraordinary sense of disbelief. Was this something humans could achieve? Tang San smiled and said, I'll explain the principles to you later. Let's head back to Kali City first. I'm sure they've been waiting anxiously. But don't worry, I already informed them when I returned earlier that little Mei succeeded. Let's go back. The former Peacock Great Demon King now had a complicated expression in his eyes. He'd had no misgivings when he laid down his life. It was all for the development of the Peacock clan and his promise to his beloved. For over a decade he had been misunderstood, but in the end he had won. Yet, the price of that victory was immeasurable, an eternal separation from his only love. And now he had returned to life, and he was about to meet his beloved once more. His emotions were naturally very conflicted. They didn't even leave the teleportation array. Ripples of space undulated around Mei Gongzi, enveloping the three of them. A silver portal opened before them in a flash, drawing near and swallowing them up. Mei Gongzi's spatial teleportation felt different from Tang San's. Xiao He felt as though the space ahead folded in layers upon layers, so that the distance between the start and the finish was actually shortened. This sensation was familiar to him. It was the teleportation method of the Peacock Demon clan. However, Mei Gongzi controlled it effortlessly. Almost as if she wasn't doing anything and space itself decided to do what she wanted. Just this brief moment showed that she was indeed more skilled than he had been even at his peak,